It's a beautiful Monday. Do you know that song? It's a beautiful brand new day. Hey.
Wait, I don't know which version you're singing.
Oh, their
Is this It's a Beautiful Day, or it's a different song you're singing?
No, it's Sakodi also. It's a beautiful brand new day. Ace of
Dun,
Spades.
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah,
That one.
Yeah, that one.
You want us to flow this morning?
No, please. Because that's all I know. But folks, it's so good to see you on the AM show. Good morning. And whatever you're up to this week, I hope it's blissful. I'm Sweetie Abochi.
My name is Benjamin Akakpo. It's a great pleasure to usher you right into the AM show. Now, what can you expect? You know how we do it. We'll be serving you the news, followed by the news review. Three people joining us. George AC is former PRO of NADMO. Mohamed Baktaglia is MP for Sisala East. Nanaya Jantwa is a presidential staffer. They'll be joining us for that portion of the show. That will be followed by sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. And then we usher you into our big stories.
And for that, we'll look at the need to survive versus the public interest, the existential threat of illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey. It rages on with reckless abandon, emboldened by political actors and leaving people worse off. And the nation is burdened as to how to stop this menace. The question is, has civil society gone silent on holding governments accountable? What can the Mahama administration do differently to end galamsey? This morning, we'll speak to stakeholders and journalists who've reported on this egregious activity at the peril of their lives on the way forward. You want to join us with your comments and your thoughts across all social media platforms? We are Joy News on TV.
Well, for now, you do want to stick and stay. We'll be serving you all the details in Ghana and across the world shortly by way of the news. We'll be right back.
Hello folks, I'm Sweetie Abochi and this is the AM News. Let's begin with the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, who says he will put his job on the line if that's what it takes to have the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill passed. While describing as unconstitutional former President Akufo-Addo's refusal to assent to the bill that was passed earlier in Parliament, Alban Bagbin said he will consult Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayeni on the way forward to ensure its passage.
BT bill. It was passed by Parliament. The former president failed or refused to assent to it, which was unconstitutional. There is no law allowing a president to refuse or fail to assent to a bill passed by Parliament. Parliament is the authority on passing laws, not any other person, not president. So he was wrong. And all of you together punished him for that. I am going to write and send it to the new Attorney General and Minister for Justice for his comments for us to resend it to the new president for his assent. So it's not going to take long time. It will be passed this year. This year, we'll pass it. It is anti-God. Yes. I'm very, 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 look, that thing, nobody should joke with me when it comes to that area. I can lose my life because of that. It's better not to live than to live in that society where man to man, woman to woman.
Former Lands and Natural Resources Minister Inusaf Hussaini has criticized Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin's request for President John Dramani Mahama to apologize to Ghanaians for his promise to appoint 60 ministers. Mr. Markins had earlier last week asked the president to apologize for that comment, indicating that governments cannot efficiently work with 60 ministers. Speaking on Newsfile, the former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Inusaf Hussaini, emphasized that the president has a responsibility to uphold every promise made.
As a member of the NDC, the president cannot violate his own promise to the people. We will resist that. And I'm disappointed in Afenyo-Markin. When President Mahama said as a flag bearer of the NDC that he was going to work with 60 ministers. Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia reduced the 60 to 50. It's Afenyomakan's suggestion that Bawumia was not being honest with Ghanaians when he said he would work with 50. And that if Bawumia had won, he would have apologized to Ghanaians and raised the number beyond 50. You see, we are running a constitution and a government that clearly must win the trust and confidence of the people. We have great trepidation on the way politicians and the political class toy with the lives of the people of this country. We believe that this country can develop and develop with very decisive, bold-minded leaders. That things that we have been doing with careless abandon, it will take time to do them right. We can get them right. And so when John Dramani Mahama suggested to the people that he was going to run 60 ministers, Ghanaians saw something new in that. Yes, I've heard people say that 60 ministers in financial terms, the quantum of savings is not that huge. But when you escalate that to include what it will mean to the Ghanaians in terms of the desire of the president to cut out wastes, when you escalate that to our foreign partners, to see how recklessness and impunity is being controlled and checked by this, when you escalate that to deal with the issue of nepotism, you are working with 60. And so in the 60, how are you going to deal with your family members?
President John Dramani Mahama has indicated that, let's take a look at the report and we come back.
The Volta region has always been a beacon of support for the National Democratic Congress, my party, and indeed myself, and has been a stronghold for Ghana's democratic progress since 1992. Your immense contribution to the success of our party and my election as President of the Republic of Ghana is a testament to the strength of the bond that exists between us. We cannot talk about Ghana's progress without acknowledging the vital role that the Volta region has played in shaping the course of our history. However, we also acknowledge your challenges, years of neglect and alienation from the development of our country due to your political choices. But I stand here today to tell you that this narrative will change. My visit this afternoon signals my commitment to ensuring that the Volta region receives its fair share of national development. Our objective to reset Ghana begins here in the Volta region. Together, we will work to correct past wrongs and work towards a future where every Ghanaian feels included and valued, regardless of your region of origin, your ethnicity, your religion, or your political affiliation. Since assuming office, we have wasted no time in taking bold steps to steer our dear nation back on course.
So that was President John Dramani Mahama saying that the narrative of neglect of the Volta region for years in the distribution of the national cake due to its political affiliation will change. He says his government will ensure that the region, which has played a vital role in the country's development and democracy, receives a fair share of the national cake. Moving on to other stories now. Beyond its core duties of boundary demarcation, reaffirmation, and delimitation, the Ghana Boundary Commission is also using social intervention programs, such as the construction of feeder roads, the provision of potable drinking water and health facilities to address the potential emergence of security threats in the deprived border communities. One of these initiatives resulted in the construction of a feeder road in Dollar Power, an inaccessible community in the Savannah region. And Commissioner General of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia, says his office is also fostering cross-border cooperation with neighboring countries to organize joint activities to prevent conflicts along Ghana's international boundaries. Here's more.
Now, we hosted this conference, and one of the key things that came out of this conference is that apart from looking at the traditional demarcation, reaffirmation, and delimitation of land and maritime boundaries, we should start looking at social intervention in the prior border communities. So as a result of that, we're seeking support, and we have received some support to be able to intervene in the construction of schools, rehabilitation of clinics, providing water in some communities in Ghana, and also feeder roads in some communities in Ghana as a result of this initiative. The third initiative that we want to concentrate is cross-border cooperation with our neighbors. So the activities are organized with our neighbors so that we can be able to ward off any conflicts that will rear up between our neighbors along our international boundaries. There were quite a number of gaps in the old act, and for that matter, there was a need for us to initiate moves to come up with a new bill to be passed by Parliament. And key among them was that the governing body of the Ghana Boundary Commission was not well encompassing to include quite a number of stakeholders. Secondly, there were no administrative provisions made in the act. There were no financial provisions. The functions were also skewed, and they were not up to international best practices or aligned to other boundary commissions in West Africa. So we decided to undertake an exercise to come up with a new bill, which was passed as Act 1123, and that was assented by the President. So now the Ghana Boundary Commission has a new act, which is Act 1123.
President John Dramani Mahama has toured the newly renovated Ghana High Commission in Nairobi, Kenya, becoming the first head of state to visit the mission since its renovation last year. After being closed in 1960, the renovation work began in 2008 and was completed in April 2024. Damte Bediako-Asare, the head of Ghana's mission in Kenya, stated that President Mahama's visit is significant and will be remembered in history.
There's no higher honor for you to have your president visiting you in the first place. And for him to be the first president to have visited, I think we are beyond measure. We are grateful. We feel honored in that you should have your head of state to be the first person to have visited us. I think, as I said earlier, we moved into these facilities. This is the residence, as you could see there. We moved in May last year, and then we moved into to occupy the Chancery also in April. So a few political leaders have come here, but this is the first time that we're having sitting president visiting the mission. So I say beyond measure, we are more than honored to have him visit us. We've had this property almost close to 4 acres. We've had it since the 60s, but we moved out. We closed down the mission in the early 80s and came back in 2008. By the time we returned to the mission, I think the facilities were essentially, literally not habitable. So we started, addressing the issue with the ministry, and the ministry graciously agreed to help us out. And I think they were able to mobilize the resources to be able to do this. You good?
Yeah.
Away from that, 7 people have died in the Upper West region following an increase in cases of cerebrospinal meningitis. The region has recorded 19 suspected cases so far. The Deputy Regional Director of Health for the Upper West region, Dr. Collins Boateng-Dankwa, says the disease is prevalent in 6 municipalities and districts. He has assured the public that his team has sufficient logistics and vaccines to manage the situation. Rafiq Salam reports.
Cerebrospinal meningitis, CSM, or simply called meningitis, is a severe infection that inflames the meninges, the protective membrane surrounding the brain and spinal cord. It occurs in various parts of the country, but more prevalent in the northern Gulf of the country, where they experience a long dry spell between October and March. The Upper West region lies on the CSM belt. On a yearly basis, several suspected, confirmed, and cases of mortality of the disease has always been recorded. This year is no exception, as the disease already has recorded 19 suspected cases and 6 deaths. Dr. Collins Boaton Dankwa is the Deputy Upper Regional Director of Health Services in charge of public health.
We've recorded it in 6 districts, as I have said. We have 1 case being recorded at DBI. It's a suspect being suspected at DBI. Jirapa, 2 cases. Lambusie 2, Nadoli Kaliu 7, Mandom Municipal 5, and then Wa West 3. So these are what we have gotten now. But based on those that we have confirmed using the PCR, Nadoli Kaliu has been confirmed with 4. And then Nandom Municipal 3, and then Wild West 1. These have been confirmed with the PCR. And then out of this, we have 6 deaths, 3 occurring at Nandom, and then 3 occurring at Nadoli. But with Nadoli, the later part of 2024, we recorded 1 death, which was around 30th December. So that makes it 4. But for this month, January.
Dr. Collins Boaton Dankwa spoke of the age range of the suspected cases of the disease.
If you look at the age range of the deaths, or the age range of people who have died, is between 20 to 25 years. So, and you know, these ages are when the issue is that when they get the headache or the neck pain, they think it's normal. Let's go and buy paracetamol and take. They will not resort to the hospital. For instance, when a child gets fever, the mother will quickly send him or her to the hospital. But with this age bracket, they normally think, oh, it's because of stress I'm getting headache, let me take para. So I want to tell them that this is not about normal headache, I'm going to take paracetamol. We plead with them. Once you get the headache and neck stiffness and you are in Upper West region, kindly visit any nearby hospital.
He also spoke of the 2 strains of the disease that health workers are battling with.
So all the deaths that we have recorded now, or the cases we have recorded now, is only 1 case that the patient recorded the 2, both Neisseria meningitis and Streptococcus pneumoniae, but all the other 5 cases were Streptococcus pneumoniae. And what I want the public to know is that with the Streptococcus pneumoniae, there is no vaccine for it.
He averred that some of the deaths would have been averted if the victims had sought early treatment at a health facility or in a hospital.
The region has prepared adequately. We have the logistics, we have the drugs, everything is available. So we don't see how or why people should sit when they have any of the symptoms I have mentioned: headache, neck stiffness, and then high-grade fever. Please just report to any nearby facility. Now, the more we suspect and then we take the sample early, that is when we are able to bring the disease down.
Reporting for J News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
The trustee chair of the Rotary Foundation, Mark Daniel Maloney, has reaffirmed the organization's commitment to eradicating polio in Ghana, stating that it remains their #1 priority. At a news conference in Accra, Mr. Maloney highlighted the significant progress Ghana has made towards eliminating the disease, but emphasized the need for sustained efforts to achieve full eradication. The following report has more.
In his remarks, Mark Maloney highlighted Rotary International's pivotal role in the global fight against polio through its partnership with the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. He noted that Ghana, as part of District 9104, has been a shining example of commitment and resilient, leveraging resources and local expertise to protect vulnerable populations from the debilitating effects of the disease.
Our flagship program has been, is, and continues to be the eradication of polio. And we will, identifying some future flagship program, we are concerned will distract from the final goal of eradicating polio around the world. We are disappointed that we still have 2 countries in which wild virus polio is still endemic, and those countries are Afghanistan and Pakistan.
District Governor of Ratri International Ghana, Florence Mami Hagan, urged the public to contribute their quota by helping Ratri to eradicate polio from the rest of the world.
I urge you, I implore you, to support Rotary by buying a ticket so that we can achieve our goals and make the communities that we serve better. They too have a chance to be able to enjoy the benefits of clean water, good education, good health. Right? For instance, we've spoken about polio and our aim to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. Ghana was certified polio-free in 2010, as far back as 2010. But there's still the need for advocacy. There's still the need to immunize, to make sure that whether it is the wild polio virus or the vaccine-derived polio virus, they are all eradicated.
Polio is a highly contagious viral infection that can lead to paralysis, breathing problems, or even death.
Let's get into our business update now with Benjamin Akapo.
Welcome to Business. In our first story, energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana is backing the establishment of a 7-member committee mandated to present a sustainable roadmap to the privatization of the ECG and NEDCO. The committee, chaired by former CEO of Bui Power Authority, Jabesh Emisa Arthur, was inaugurated on Friday, the 24th, by the Minister for Green Transition and Energy. This, Dr. Suleimana believes, the constitution of the committee has the experience to deliver on a model which will improve efficiency and inject capital for expansion. He spoke to Joy News.
We shouldn't even have been talking about privatization if we had gotten if we had gotten our acts right in terms of what is supposed to have been done. But you've seen that the inevitable has become inescapable so far as the distribution arm is concerned, so far as the entire power value chain is concerned. And I think the minister is spot on. ECG, or the distribution arm, has been the weak link. And if you don't get it right, the chances are that we'll not get the others right. And that's a fact, because it's the cash conduit that is supplying cash to all the generation and then the transmission. And so we haven't had other issues with IPPs yet, but it's still also on the horizon. So they are taking these proactive actions to ensure that we have a available cash pool, so that when IPPs come to knock at the door, we'll be able to, the sector should be able to sustain that. Now, right. 2 reasons. To directly answer your question, 2 reasons why we should do this. Number 1, efficiency. And you've noticed that ECG for the past couple of periods has been experiencing huge amount of losses. I mean, a private businessman cannot run business, and you have up to 30 to 40% losses. I mean, it's not sustainable. That's number 1. Efficiency is key. Number 2, the private sector might come with a kind of capital injection. ECG has a lot of money, but the money is leaking so much. Okay, so with efficiency and a bit of private sector participation in terms of capital injection, I think the fortunes of ECG could be far, far better than the status quo.
Now, the chief executive of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, Sharif Ghali, is calling on the Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment to establish the Ghana Youth Federation to champion the economic development of the youth. The establishment of the federation is mandated by law under the National Youth Authority Act of 2016. However, not much has been done since the passage of the act. In an interview with Joy Business, Mr. Ghali emphasized that the federation would consolidate the mandate of the existing youth agencies to achieve the needed economic development among the youth.
Needs the Youth Federation. You see, we run a system where we tell the young people you are the leaders, but we are not empowered to lead. nobody's giving us that way to really lead. Why am I saying this? In 2016, before the NDC left, they made the then National Youth Council to become National Youth Authority with the NYA Act 2016. And inside the act, it is mentioned by law that they should set up what is called the Youth Federation, which is supposed to be the amalgamation of all registered groups across Ghana. What that seeks to do is that it is going to give an independent voice for youth to be able to support our economic development. It's not supposed to be political. Yes, we have several agencies. We are talking about National Youth Authority, Youth Employment, NEIP, GEA, Maslock has a component of youth. Every other ministry, it's not only them, every other ministry have something on youth, even Ministry of Trade and Agriculture, now Agribiz, right? The point is that even having all of this, there is not that point where they all synchronize or they all coordinate their effort. That is why over the years we have been working on the National Youth Policy. And I want to tell you from today that that National Youth Policy is on the shelves. What the National Youth Policy seeks to do is that we identify the problems of the youth. And now we identify everybody that play a key role in the youth development and assign a certain responsibility to you. At the end of the day, the National Youth Authority mandate is to ensure that if there is anything under Ministry of Trade to do for youth, you are doing it. If there's anything under Ghana Enterprise Agency to do for youth, you are doing it. But the problem is that there is no way to coordinate. There is no way to report. So everybody is doing what they can do in silos.
It's a wrap for business. Thank you for joining us, but handing over now to Sweetie Abochi.
Thank you, Ben, for bringing us business updates. Now, that's a wrap for the AM News Bulletin on the AM show, and the news review comes up next. George AEC is former PRO for NADMO. Mohamed Mataglia is MP for Sisala East, and Anaya Chapim Jantwa is a presidential staffer. They join us to review the newspapers. Please stay. Do we say happy Monday or just Fridays? But welcome aboard the news review segment. I hope your weekend was great. Joining me in the studio for us to review the newspapers this morning is George AC, former PRO for NADMO, as well as Mr. Mohamed Bataglia. He's Member of Parliament for Sisala East. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Great. Usually we give our guests a couple of minutes to walk us through what's on their mind. It could be a reflection on any topical issue, but since Mr. AC is familiar with it, I'd like to start with him first. George, what would you share with us this morning?
Well, I don't know, but I think I just read this morning the Director General of GES is relieved of his position. Yeah, it's what we all anticipate and envision that is going to happen. So we're looking at this processes, changing government and changing institutional leadership and what's the way forward? It's about time, I think, we'll look at the structural progression of individuals within state institutions. I think that will be the way to go. I'm not saying this is wrong, no, but that's been the practice. So then sometimes some institution like Ghana Education Service, people progress to Director General, right? So that whether there's a change in government or not, people within the establishment know they're going to be progressive.
There's some sort of line of succession.
Yes, yes. You know, the Ghana Police, the Ghana Education Service, Immigration, other state institutions. I think it's about time we look at things that way going forward so that people will have the confidence that if I work hard, I can climb to the topmost position of my institution. Sometimes you'll be there and a politician. You know, I am a politician. I was appointed communications director. Somebody will be taking over from me, fine. But I'm looking at that way, like some of the strategic state institutions. Can it be that people progress and then get to the top? It doesn't matter which party wins, okay? He's assured of his position. And the last one about IGP, because if you look at it, the confidence with which he was working is not there today. You get it?
What are you
it has people, because people you read today, tomorrow will retain him, will not retain him. So, you know, he's a bit cautious, okay? But if it were institutional progression, not political appointments, okay, that he rose to that position on merit, whether MPP or NDC, he is the Inspector General, and he has 4 years or 3 years tenure. He doesn't care who wins the election or who loses the election.
Right.
It's good for institutional growth and progression. Okay. That's the comment.
Thank you. Mr. Battaglia, there's a lot happening in the country.
Yeah, he's honorable. But
honorable. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. But before I go to what's on my mind, this is a very big platform and my maiden appearance. Permit me kindly to use this platform to also say a very big thank you to my constituents, especially the chiefs, women, children. I think that the Sisala land have offered many sons and daughters this opportunity to contribute. And I think my predecessors have done quite well trying to improve lives. I'm only hoping and praying that we will have a collaborative form of leadership to be able to enhance life, make life better for our people. The philosophy is simply that I think that my duty is to make sure that I amplify the potential, not emphasizing on sympathy, because sympathy will only give you what arms. But if you are able to amplify the potential of the area, you get investment that will transform lives, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Yeah, now zeroing down to the question you asked, clearly there have been a lot of things going around in there, but one of the biggest issues that is in my mind regards the conduct of Parliament for now. As a new first-timer in Parliament, there have been the narrative out there recently that we had the NDC have a super majority that is quite weak, and the MPP has a micro minority that is quite strong. But for me, I differ from those perspectives. I think that Parliament is a house of democracy. And as indicated by the leader, President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, indicated that the fact that the NDC has over 183, plus, I'm indicating plus the independence, we are not going to take undue advantage of processes to make governance quite difficult. No. I also want to say that, yes, a lot of people are now on our leaders trying to make them look as if they are weak. We could understand their emotions, we could understand their sentiments, believing that they want us to be able to act in a certain manner that will show that we are pinning the MPP to a corner. But I think that, well, democracy, you have to give everybody the opportunity to express their views. Yeah. One other important thing before I go is my dear sister, Agnes Namomo, Honorable. I think there's been news recently regarding her late arrival at her swearing-in day. I know her. Fortunately, I have schooled with her, and I know how meticulous she is, how punctual she is to duty. Clearly, I'm happy to have heard from the government spokesperson indicating that it was unavoidable circumstance that took her out of Accra, and that is why she was late for it.
Yeah. And they had actually made alternate arrangements for the president's speech, and so it's not that she was late, it was actually to her credit. I listened to Felix.
Has she been reinstated?
Not yet. She wasn't she was just not sworn in.
So okay.
In with the next batch.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Because I read that she's been fired.
No.
It's too harsh.
We blow things.
I didn't know President Mahama to be.
Apparently, she had a family emergency.
Yes.
She had informed the team,
so there was empathy and
well,
I read that she's been fired. I said, what?
See, misinformation.
Yes. No, I read it.
Yeah.
So sure.
Let's get into the newspapers now. Start with the Daily Graphic. On the front page, Dasebre Ekuamwa Boateng III takes oath as Kwewu Paramount's chief. Financial indiscipline rocks MMDAs. 10-year audit reveals 242.84 million Ghana cedis in irregularities. Africa Prosperity Dialogues open January 30th, and President appoints Kwesa White to head SIGA. The Daily Graphic this morning is as thick as it comes. But let's start from this financial indiscipline that is rocking the MMDAs. Now, the story reads, there is no end in sight concerning the irregularities and general indiscipline on the books of metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies in the country. The Daily Graphic's 10-year assessment of the Auditor General's reports on the accounts of the district assembly show that irregularities have built up to the tune of 242.84 million Ghana cedis and still on the rise. And I just want to skip to the part where it says, From 9.13 million Ghana cedis in 2014, the irregularities recorded by the MMDAs each year jumped to 30.79 million Ghana cedis in 2015, before peaking at 72.86 million in 2016. It goes on and on and on and on. What are we doing with these? Where's the money going? George AC.
Yeah, this technicalities and if you talk of irregularities, sometimes it's not necessarily embezzlement. Okay, so when the auditors themselves explain it, it's better. Irregularities can include monies given, paid, but the documents have not been fully, receipts and co have not been returned yet, you get it. And so as of the time the auditors were doing their work, the documents needed to, buttress the fact that this money is being officially expended had not been brought in
Let
yet.
me give you some context.
Okay.
So it say that, for example, talking about the, the type of irregularities. The 66 MMDAs employed 366 people to collect revenue within their jurisdictions in the last 3 years. And guess how much they paid them? They paid them 7.82 million Ghana cedis as salaries. And now guess how much they collected in that revenue? They collected 3.99 million Ghana cedis.
That is worrying because
that's wild.
Yes, the assemblies, we're trying to see if the private sector can help them increase revenue. That's why they did outsourcing to the private sector. Unfortunately, this cannot be value for money. This cannot be value for money. So if that is also considered an irregularity, then this one there, it's worrying. We need to begin to reconsider the process of outsourcing, okay, to the private sector to collect revenue on behalf of the assemblies, especially assemblies that have market centers and other things. If the assembly officers, because there were times, it's part of the irregularities where it was established that in a certain metropolitan assembly, individuals tasked with the responsibility of collecting revenue were having a double receipt, printed their own receipts and then the official receipt of the assembly. You get it? So they were issuing out their receipts more than that of the assembly. And it came out. So I think people were punished for that. So maybe that is the reason why they wanted to outsource it to the private sector. But this cannot be value for money. And then the other ones I was talking about, they are also part of it. And then using monies meant for maybe point A, water, procure something, and then for another thing. That's also part of the irregularities. And some too are cash advance to staff of the assemblies or something, but had not been repaid as of the time and co. So all these things are factored into, but it's worrying, moving from 9.5 around in 2015 to 200 plus. It's staggering, and we need to take steps to ensure that we can nip this in the bud.
We're always talking about decentralization and way to, improve local government. And if this is what we are seeing, it's terrifying.
Very.
How does this make you feel?
Well, I think that I, to a very large extent, agree with my brother, you see. And looking at it, to me, if you ask me, I would try to say that we need some national orientation and trying to place our country right. The fact is that we try to find out how do we act towards this country called Ghana. Trust me, we as politicians receive the most bashing because normally the faces are out there, but the actual architect that cripples this economy are not politicians. So it is for this reason that we think that people should be made accountable and people should be made aware of the responsibilities ahead of them when they are taking any office. For instance, we could have political pressures that will force you to pick up people just for the name of employment, when in actual sense you are doling out money to them. I think the time has come for us to correct all these anomalies, making sure that there's value for money for whatever we do. Whatever we do, MMDCs should make sure or should be held accountable. Sometimes we come and it's like we do it for the optics. People can give explanations. Some genuine, as my brother is indicated, where definitely there have been some expenditure being incurred, yet yet they have not been able to reconcile their documents. It doesn't necessarily mean that some money has been pilfered or some embezzlement took place. But some are also deliberate, where they cause so much financial loss to this country, just in the name of satisfying a group of people for political populism. So that one, we should be able to check that and make sure that individuals that have given the position of responsibility are held accountable and to be made to pay in all forms as the law prescribes when it affects our country. Because this is something that is drawing us backwards. It doesn't matter the government that is in power.
Okay.
Once people do not orientate themselves to be honest to this country, we will always be in this quagmire.
Does that feed into the narrative of, when you talk about holding them accountable, do you think that when we elect these MMDCs and the rest, that would help hold them accountable? What are your views on that? For
me, I think that, like it's been discussed before, previously both political parties were almost at a point that we agreeing to this.
Yes.
But for the fact that others wanted it to go partisan, others wanted it. But it means that we are drawing, for me as a parliamentarian, I think that if MMDCs, per the Constitution, my function is just to be able to formulate laws.
Yeah.
Principally. But now I am seen more as a development agent in my constituency, even the DC who is representing or mirroring the president. So he has no responsibility. Every person will come to your house. Issues will be brought to your office as a parliamentarian. But if these people are also subjected to those elections, I am sure they will be held accountable.
Okay.
Thank God the Ghanaian voter has always, but now has over-amplified the fact that they are more discerning than before.
Okay.
No politician will be able to take them for granted again.
Right. And this is a good time to usher in our new presidential staffer into the conversation. Congratulations.
Sweetie.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How does it feel? How did the news come to you? I think you were on the news review that day. And then later that evening, we got the news that you'd been appointed.
Yeah. It came to me as, I don't know, but as a surprise though.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm grateful and I thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for reposing trust in me to work with him in his office directly. And it's a position of trust. And I promise him I'm not going to fail him, because I know that we need to change the trajectory of events in Ghana, and I'll put in my best to ensure to help him in his resetting agenda.
Okay. When people talk about the president's appointment and not only appointing along party lines, I mean, you are one of the reference points because you're not an NDC member. No. I think it was only at the last part of during the election campaign season that I saw you at some rally ground or to support the president. So, well, congratulations. But before you came, we're talking about financial indiscipline that's rocking the MMDAs, and a 10-year audit revealing that 242.8 million Ghana cedis alone have been uncovered in irregularities. Maybe a quick comment on that, and then we move on to other stories.
Thank you, sweetie. Good morning to your viewers, and good morning to my brothers here. It's this irregularity that, I mean, has appeared now, keeps coming up. I was a public servant for 27 years, and it keeps coming up. And I believe that we need to get to the core, what really happens that these things come up. Some of the irregularities can be procurement breaches. It can be, I mean, money that was not used properly and all that. So what kind of system? I mean, going forward, we need to, as Ghana, sit down in a stakeholder meeting and find out how we deal with these leakages. You remember at a point, even at the Lands Commission, even though their payment systems are digitalized, a worker was able to infiltrate. And so it's a systemic problem that we need to look at. And I believe it is time. We cannot continue losing money like this. As Honorable was saying, the MMDCs, they are agents of development in their various areas. But now, because of some of these issues, the MPs have become agents of development. It's a lot of stress on them because they need to do roads, because they are looking after the people, as it were, and they're also looking at development. Meanwhile, the Assembly Common Fund doesn't come to them directly. So we really need to rethink the structure around the local government system, and also need to find out how we can deal with some of these leakages.
Okay.
It is very key.
All right, thank you. Let me just do 2 more stories from the Daily Graphic and we move on. It says 1 in 10 adolescent girls engage in sex before turning 15.
Wow.
Who's having sex with these girls? 1 in every 10 adolescent girls between the ages of 10 and 19 had sexual intercourse before 15 years of age. That's the study by the Ghana Statistical Service in a 2022 report. Now, the study extracted from the 2022 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey said the figure amounted to 10.2% of adolescent population, which constituted 22% of the country's total population. We have a problem. This is a big problem. But please hold for me. Let me do 2 more stories and then we can discuss. NDC founder, member endorses Ablakwa for foreign ministry job. And then NPP embarks on nationwide review of election 2024. They've been at it for a while. Focus on agricultural industrialization, consolidating 24-hour economy policy. And I should help us put that in perspective. And then on the back page, Legon City secure crucial victory over Gold Stars. Kotoko jump to top spot.
Wow.
Narrow win. These and many stories in the Daily Graphic. Pick one for yourself and get into the stories. But let's discuss this. Who's having sex with 10 to 19-year-old girls? 10 to 15-year-old girls? That's defilement, isn't it?
Quiet.
I spoke before you.
Yeah. It's defilement.
Yes, it is. But what are your reflections on this?
Yeah, it's worrying. Let me congratulate Nanaya. Last week we were here. We were saying she should be. I was saying PURC, and she was saying, well, why not minister? and it's good. Presidential staffer is elevation and recognition. As she said, congratulations, and grateful to His Excellency for recognizing her contributions to the cause. 1 out of 10, 10 to 15, yes, adolescent. There are laws in this country that make this punitive, and we need to go. GSS survey has brought it into the public domain. I've worked with Child Rights International before, and they're very keen on some of these things, and Bright Appiah and his team are not charitable with some of these things when they come out. And so when there's a survey that points to the fact that they are happening in our communities, it's worrying. And it's been there for many years, especially if you've also seen the workings of PPAG, Planned Parenthood, of Ghana. You know, you see that teenage or adolescent pregnancies were prevalent sometime, and so their engagement, education, and you know, using protection in sex and co. But the issue is it right for these kids to be engaging in sex? In the survey, if you go into details, you get to know that some of the reasons are economic factors. Some are economic. Some too are they are not having access to shelter. You get it? When you go to some places, you see them sleeping, not only in Accra, in Cape Coast. There was a research. Even Child Rights did those research, and some of the case and cultural matters, sweetie. There are some places, if a girl at 13 is not pregnant,
something must be wrong with her.
Yes.
That's
it's there. Yes. If you are 13, 15 and you don't have a child, they call you Saji or something in the fancy area. It means you're barren. Okay?
The particular geographical area.
Yeah.
If you place it as culture in any form can be both a springboard and a trap. At one point, it sounds good. Another point, it can also be a problem. So how do we then strike a fair balance to make sure that we don't completely throw our culture away, but we do things that favors us in the... Besides that, I think that the concept of responsibility also counts. Because, you see, the level at which you have responsibility over somebody will also determine the control you have. Then we talk about the modernity. In some other jurisdictions, modernity brings about development and advancement. But in our jurisdiction, modernity introduces the negativity to our young ones a lot. I have had the opportunity to talk to students at the secondary school, and I said that if you are a speaker or somebody who goes to talk to young people at that level, you are challenged with a very difficult issue. Why? Because even at that stage of their life, they are in conflict with themselves. Whatever goes against their future, that's what they adore. Mm-hmm. And whatever will make them better people, that's what they are against. So even if you see a teacher that likes to come to the class very early or punctual, they name you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how they are. Yeah. So one time I gave a quote of Jim Rohn, who says that in life, somebody must necessarily go through two pains, the pain of sacrifice or the pain of regret. But clearly, the pain of regret weighs more as compared to the pain of sacrifice. So I think that the gender ministry, I am sure this time, we should not just reduce it to school feeding. We should make sure that we put in the adequate measures to make every stakeholder should play a role. Because this one, some years past, I think I sat in a program where they even indicated at the age of 9 years, people are sleeping with the children. And even some, like him, did mention about culture, where we are coming from rural constituencies, sometimes we see helpless mothers doing everything to save their girl child, but society is against that. To the extent that even communities will clash because they think that it's a tradition that when they pick a young girl from that, you don't have to come for. And that is a big challenge. More so, I will end on a point that Nana Yajantwa indicated, like people will naturally act according to what they see. When they have access, unfettered access to things that we don't have control over. That's one thing. And I also think that role modeling will also be a point. I'm sure going into the future, some of you who are role models should move out of the studios to the schools to let them see the reason why they have to work for themselves and become better.
Yeah.
It's a society we have to come together to build. It's not just one person's responsibility. Thank you.
I like that you called on the gender ministry. I think there are so many foundations out there and initiatives who are doing things for young girls. It doesn't end at distributing sanitary pads and, going to schools to talk to them. If the ministry can collaborate with some of these institutions, NGOs especially, I think we can, well, the work that remains is huge, but we can cut it in at least half by percentage, because then people, individuals are doing part of the work for the ministry, and hopefully we get to a point where the numbers will reduce.
And I believe this report should, this report should be looked at carefully. It came out in 2022, and I'm taking the initiative to go to the Ghana Statistical Service to pick the report and really read it thoroughly and see what kind of measures can be put in place. So that, I mean, I know that the gender minister would also do a lot of work. Okay. But I would pick it up and see what is there and also collaborate with her to see how we can deal with this matter.
Thank you. Yes. Let's get into other papers now. Should I start with you?
No, okay, yeah. The Economy Times, commodity markets outlook, promising for cocoa and gold. Commodity markets outlook, promising for cocoa and gold. Ghana reigns globally in fintech as WEF declares digital economy as the future of Africa. Yes. Inclusivity to be integral pivots for Mahama's economic team. Inclusivity to be integral pivots for Mahama's economic teams. That's the Finance Minister, Dr. Kessiel Ato-Forson. Should I take one, or we should move to the next?
Let's move to...
Okay. Fatima Tu urges MPP, that's a publisher, the Ghanaian publisher. Fatima Tu urges MPP to prioritize unity amid post-election reflections. That's the former Minister for Information. PUWU rejects Mahama's ECG privatization move.
Yeah. They're even threatening industrial action.
2025, WEF recognizes Dr. Bawumia's digitalization agenda. Ato-Forson pledges prudent fiscal management. I would rather die than accept LGBTQ plus practices in Ghana. So
that's an interesting one.
Baldwin, yes. So we take one?
Yes. I have a question in mind. You know, the president said that this bill died with the 8th Parliament. Now Alban is saying that he would rather die than live and in a society where men and all that. And then he says he's going to speak to Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine to see how they can move it forward. Isn't that contradictory to what Alban Bagbin said? That he's going to consult Dr. Dominic Ayine to see how they can move the bill forward. But the president is saying the bill died with the...
No, I have a challenge. I believe the legal brain should come and explain, or we take it to the Supreme Court for clarity. Sweetie, the Parliament, if Parliament passed the bill, concluded its work, and handed it over to the clerk of Parliament to be forwarded to the presidency. It was indeed forwarded, okay? But the president said because of a Supreme Court case, hold on. So it's moved from there. Parliament is served to the administrative wing of Parliament. It is concluded. So how then do you tell me it's expired? Okay? So we need to look at that. There's nothing. Parliament, if Parliament concluded its work, it's not like there's debate going on, the Parliament is closed, so that one we agree you must start. It's finished. Okay? So take it, the Supreme Court finished, gave its judgment, and the then president was clothed with the powers within the 1-2 weeks to have signed it. He didn't sign it. So you cannot tell me that because of that, it's no. Okay? It's an administrative wing, and the administrative wing of Parliament never expires.
Ah, well.
Okay? So please,
what's
let's
the president
look at that.
talking about?
No, and Bagbin, I heard Honorable Bagbin also saying that it can take 1 year to do something. Within this year, it can be passed. I believe he's just thinking it should be brought back, for some processes to be gone through and then forwarded to the president. But I think in its state now, it can be forwarded to the president for accept.
Okay.
Okay, that is my thinking, because it didn't die because the Parliament concluded its work on it.
Okay, and I'll come to you. I see.
But we need the lawyers. We need the lawyers. We need the lawyers to make that argument to situate it proper. Yeah, but I was saying maybe I'll take it to the Supreme Court for proper interpretation.
My excitement is based on the fact that I try to define who the politician is at any point in time.
Okay.
You see, this.
Why is the definition circumstantial?
Maybe because these issues, he's raised a very good point. We have to go to Supreme Court. All these things could have been nipped in the bud if that bill had been signed.
Yes, at the time.
Pay for it. Why were we dragging?
Oh, well, the president said there was a legal...
No, there were processes.
And it bordered on human rights.
I understand that, yes. But it's really, if you were even having some reservations, the Constitution indicated what you should do and refer it back. That would have been done. But today, my understanding of Alban Bagbin, the Speaker's statement is that, yes, is dead and gone, but we can revive it through another process. So that's why he said he was going to write. He'll be writing to the Attorney General to see how, within now and in a year's time, we should be able. But one thing I know, lawyers will always tell you, because I've listened to many of them, they will tell you that law is value neutral. It's just like an empty box or bottom. It's what represent or what reflects our aspirations that we fit in there and adopt as law. What is good for us as Ghanaians? Let's all begin to look at it. The politics of it is becoming too much. Meanwhile, we are losing fact of the main issues that keep us as a people. We have an identity. I told somebody, it is not for nothing that the phantom drum is louder than the what? The piano. Yet we dance to the phantom drum and do not dance so much to the piano. We are Africans. If we think that this defines who we are and we can hold on to it, why don't we do that?
I like that. The phantom drum and the piano.
Yeah, the phantom drum is loud. But we like it. Assuming if you are playing the phantom drum in the Western world, maybe they might see that you are making noise, but we adore it because that's who we are. Why are we not looking at it as a people so that we begin to do things that reflect who we are rather than trying to adopt things in a wholesale manner? That changes our culture. And I think we have a lot to talk about. These things that we are seeing today, talking about case being done, all those things also have a lot of influence on us. And I think that as a people, let's begin to put this politics aside. Ghanaians are becoming so fed up with what we say and not do. Let's all come on board and make sure that we get this done.
Okay. Nanaya, granted, the phantom drum is ours and the piano is Western, but in this day and age, where we say the world is now a global village, these people who practice LGBTQ+I...
You see how you qualify them, these people. I'm just trying to tell you that is what it is.
Explain what you mean.
I mean that they don't do the things the right way that God wants us to do it. So
Trump has issues.
Even Trump has yes, Trump has signed the bill.
And now there's just two gender in America.
Yes,
Man, woman.
that is what he said. So that is the way we are going.
But that's for transgender and all those people. The people, gay people. I mean, when I talk about these people, I meant gay people.
Yeah.
And I don't.
God is against them.
I think that at some point we might have to step outside the religious circle or protection of the Bible and all that, and look at this as human beings, right? No, I don't think we should judge people for their sexual orientation.
We are not judging.
And the bill does not seek to prosecute
My
them.
dear, we are not judging anybody. What you do inside your room is nobody's business. But we needn't also want to allow it to fester and take over our nation. Do you get me? We want to do it the right way. You see, before I was telling somebody that before, if you have a daughter whose mother is your friend and the daughters are together, you are not afraid. But today when you see your friend's daughter and your daughter being too close, sleeping in the same room, yes, you get scared. Do you understand? We needn't change our orientation because of people saying this is my sexuality. Everybody was born a woman. Everybody was born a man. You see, I want to say that in every person, you have a little of the male genetics in you.
Yeah.
Somebody else has a little of the female genetics. That doesn't make you a man. Somebody's, me, for instance, I think mine is higher than, do you understand?
Yeah, we have that.
Do you understand? But it doesn't make me a man. Because the things that women will do will take me, I'm not afraid. Do you understand? So, it is like that, but it doesn't make me a man. It doesn't make another person a woman. That is our makeup. So you don't, because of you have some prominence of something in you, you say that I am a man, then you go and change everything. At the end of the day, you find out that they are miserable. They are lost. They don't even, when you get close to them, at the end, the tail end, they are confused.
Yeah, I've watched documentaries that show some of them wish they hadn't even started.
Yes, they are confused. Yeah. Because the hormones are just TikTok. They are confused.
But let's bring it back to Ghana about between what the speaker is saying and what President Mahama said a few days ago.
No, you see, the hula baloo about everything didn't make it what it should be. Going to court, backwards, forwards. So you couldn't even process it carefully or in the right context. So I think that maybe he said that just because he thinks that let's do it again. Because he said this time it is not going to be a private member. That's what I heard him say. But that government is going to take over and make it, take it to parliament from the end of government. It shows commitment that he wants to do it. I don't think that, and he said it severally, that he as a Christian, there's no way he would agree to this. So I don't think that him saying that it's ended with parliament, it means that he doesn't want, no. Okay. The processes, because the processes were too murky. It goes to court, it comes back, this one, I won't sign, I will sign. So it was too murky. So it is like, okay, let's redo it. Let's go back. And maybe same content, a little tweaking here and there, and let's pass it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We use it as a political ball game.
Yeah.
So, yes, it was a political. But you see, I was happy that former president didn't sign it at the twilight of the administration, because it comes with economic impositions and other things, okay? So it would have meant that you sign.
Are you sure? I've heard a different narrative.
No.
Doesn't come
you see,
with any imposition.
It does. There are consequences. In fact, I was one of the people saying on air that President Kufuor should sign and will sign. You get it. But later, I realized, no. If he signs it, he's imposing something on the incoming administration. And when there are economic challenges and people will blame him that. So let the incoming take the
no, but the point is
that because of the economic ramifications
from the World Bank and those
yes.
No, but you see, that is.
But fortunately, the world had Trump now, and
now Trump is yes. I'm saying that
that's a no nonsense.
Let's move on. Public workers, PUW, right? They're against ECG's privatization. In fact, they're threatening industrial action. Anaya, what are your thoughts on that?
person.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed this.
Yes.
They're citing the failure of PDS and all that, and they're saying that we have people who can actually do the work, and so don't outsource, don't privatize.
I mean, don't worry. The point is that you see there's a 7-member committee that has been set. Everything will be looked at. I am saying that whatever it is, we need to look at ECG from top to bottom, because most of the leakages are enormous. And the burden of financial burden on governments mostly comes from the distribution company. And we need to tear ECG as on paper and say, at the top is management, at the middle is middle management, there is procurement, there are issues to do with revenue and leakages. So where is the problem?
Right.
When we look through everything and we see what the problem is, it will determine what kind of structure we should put in place.
Okay.
And also, we have our stakeholder consultations. Who will be one of them to look at?
In fact, they said they haven't been engaged.
The process has just started.
Right.
Do you get the process has just started, and there'll be a meeting on I think Wednesday or something like that. And the process has just started, and we would put everything in perspective. I would want whatever that we do, for once, we need to tear down ECG. ECG told us that their losses somewhere last 2024 was because of Forex, because of the exchange rate, and the Forex depreciated their income by, I think, some 50% or so. We need to look at it. Okay. What are we doing? What is it that ECG is always problematic? As we do it, we have to also look at NEDCO, the distribution service at the northern sector. They also make losses, and what is accounting for their losses? So we need to look at procurement. The minister went and inspected, I think, 3 million meters that have been in the warehouse all this time. That is a loss, and that is not a revenue collection loss. Do you get me? That is the procurement loss. So we need to find out how many meters are there, how many transformers, and where are they procured from.
Okay.
Do you understand? Right. So we need to look at it holistically, put ECG there, and look at it. If we go in and we find out that whatever is happening can be resolved with a team that is in place, why not?
Okay.
But if we see that there should be changes, then we look at what kind of structure that we have to use to make, because we cannot continue like this. We cannot continue to have a burden, a financial burden, because of our distribution company. Okay. It is key.
Quick comments on this, and we get to other stories.
Yeah, I think that he's a very experienced person in that field. And we admire her knowledge and experience. And what I just want to say is that in doing all of this, we should have the bigger picture in mind. I think that it should be more of the general Ghanaian populace and less of just the workers. Why? Because I think that if what we are going to do will benefit the entire Ghanaian population, we should focus on that more. But I also do agree we should be able to bring in the right people. Let's have the industry players do the right consultation with the indicate transparency. I think we've gotten to a point in leadership that Ghanaians do not want promises. All they want is for you to be candid. Prove to them that you are honest with them. Ghanaians who are discerning, they will come, tighten their belt, and help you solve a problem. Okay. That's what I want my government to go.
All right.
Yes, the ECG arena. Now we see about, I stand to be corrected, 60% fossil fuel usage, HFO and other things.
That one is the generation side.
Generation, yes. And so I'm dovetailing it into the cost factor and the losses that we incur. My good brother, John Jinapo, I have confidence in him that he will be able to work to transform the area. But the question has been, is it going to be at the management level or what, the privatization? And me, when I hear the NDC talking privatization, I'm a bit worried because we are the privatization-driven, people. They are socially, they are socially inclined. And so when they begin to go that way, then I said, hey, if the socialists
No,
are
oh, no, no, but
I'm told that we have just a couple of minutes to wrap.
That is to
Let
bring
me take the wind out of your
efficiency,
sail.
to bring efficiency to bear in the sector. And the losses, as Nana said, it's huge. I've heard some, 40%. You get it, but above 30% is huge, and it's not acceptable.
It's very, even 20-something.
Yes, yes. So let's see how we can.
Oh, I have my
headlines.
paper.
Yeah, just the headlines.
Okay, NDC MP slams party over vetting criteria. CDD boss extend gratitude to President Mahama for appointment. NDC tax bitter police Akwabenya. Fan Milk apologizes for accident on Achimota Tesano overhead bridge. And I think that's about it.
Okay.
Omari Wade Sky returned, but he vows to fight back.
Okay. Any of these?
There's a major one. You didn't read that.
Which one is this? Okay. Another Apollo 568 looms as Mahama targets public workers employed in December, January.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get some headlines from Mr. Battaglia as well.
Well, we have the news center, right? Baumia to highlight governance, ethical leadership, integrity in Nigeria today. Then we have Atufosan, government to prioritize prudent fiscal management, Dr. Atufosan.
Yeah.
Then there's a question here, is Lordina influencing Mohammed's appointments?
Is she? That's a question I would like you to answer. What are your thoughts? That should be the last thing we do. Don't worry, we'll get into that in a minute.
I don't think so. I think that what I'm seeing so far is like there's a collaborative agreement between the NDC party and the presidency.
Yes. Okay.
The names that have been appointed,
it
shows me there's a consensus.
Okay, but the question is
because
if
those
Lordina
people
was influencing it.
You cannot take that out.
Okay.
She can contribute, but influencing it, now the names that are out, I see Asiedun Ketia, Fifi Kwete, the presidency, all of them working together to put the names out.
This one, I don't think it's anything. I really think we should talk about.
I didn't even think it was a question.
No, because I don't think.
Certainly.
Because what he's saying is what I also see. I mean, and I don't see how. He's a first lady. She's a first lady, and she has a privileged position. But it doesn't mean that she's doing appointments.
In fact, even if she were to influence, I think it falls in her hands.
Yeah.
She can always suggest.
She can suggest. The decision lies with the party, with the president, and they shouldn't put pressure on her.
Without admitting that she's influencing, her influence really resonates with the Ghanaian sentiments. Having Nanaya and all the people who have seen been appointed so far indicate that. But the one thing is that as a new parliamentarian, I think the president met us as a whole and made it clear to everybody. I think we understand. The important thing is to get this country moving.
Moving, that's all.
No, for me, people are just talking about, let me tell you, there's more to political functions than political titles.
Yes.
You can have a title without any function.
Yes.
People should look for functions that will better the lives of people. That's what they focus on.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Some people just like the title.
In my case, I didn't want to say, but he has said it. He told me, get up and go and work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was waiting for my letter. And he said, it'll come, go and work.
Go and work?
Yes.
Have you guys, are you following what's happening in Trump? I want to say Trump versus Colombia.
Yeah, for
24
Trump.
hours. And thank you all so much for joining us. Those
That's
who joined us on News
man.
TV. Trump. It's my PRO for NADMO. Mohammed Battaglia is Member of Parliament for Sisala East. And of course, Nanaya Achapim Janswa, Presidential Staffer. Please stay. Sports comes up next on the AM.
Yeah.
Time now to bring you sports here on the AM show with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. President of the Ghana Football Association, Ket Okreku, is set to become a CAF Executive Committee member on March 12th. The Confederation of African Football, they have scheduled March 12th for its General Assembly that will be taking place in Cairo. The GFA president, who somewhere 2019 was voted leader of Ghana's football, decided to file his nomination to contest for the position of a CAF Executive Committee member. He's running on the ticket of Wafu Zone B unopposed, by virtue of the fact that he had had a gentleman agreement with the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, Jibrila Hamidu, who had agreed that he would move on to become a CAF Executive Committee member, whilst Kurt Okraku takes over as the leader of the Wafu Zone B zone. And by virtue of that again, there's also another gentleman agreement where Jibrila will be vying for the position of a FIFA Council member, whilst Kurt Okraku steps in as Executive Committee member. In the FIFA Council elections, however, there are going to be about 12 people contesting for 5 slots. And the likes of Amadio Pinnick, interestingly, is not contesting for the position of a FIFA Council member on the Nigeria Football Federation ticket. He's doing so on the ticket of Tanzania Football Federation, per documents available to Joy Sports. And also, Aisha Johansson, who is the former president of Sierra Leone Football Association, Lydia Nsekere of Burundi as well, all in there. And Hani Aburida, the president of Egypt Football Association, Fazul Lekja, the president of the Moroccan Football Federation, are all vying for a position of FIFA Council members, whilst the likes of Kurt Okraku, Wallace of Tanzania FA, are other people who are contesting for a position of Executive Committee. Just gone by on your shot is the CAF president, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, and he's also going for the position of CAF president unopposed in the elections on March 12th. So he'll continue his second tenure on March 12th, whilst Kurt Okraku steps into the shoes of Jibrila as Wafu Zone B's representative on the CAF Executive Committee. And now, over the weekend, the Ghana Olympic Committee organized its General Assembly. And well, in that assembly, there were lots of chaos regarding Table Tennis Federation and the Ghana Rugby Association as well. This is because there are issues surrounding the leadership of these two federations. Let's hear from the General Secretary of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Mohamed Shanun, who has been explaining the details to Metro Television.
That the old board has been dissolved because as we speak, Ghana Rugby has a board. Okay. Has he received any communication? Okay. That is one. Number two, I'm telling him, he's my senior. I learn under his feet. But he has acted ultra-virus. Okay. Because, my brother, the second question is, you said you wrote to... Now you are going to question two. Question two, you said you wrote to Africa and IF. Which part of the GOC constitution did you use to do that? When your president is also saying different things. Today, I'm learning from you, I'm learning from your president. If I go home and my children ask me what was discussed, I'll say, oh, my learned senior said he has written to Africa. And now the president is saying he has written to, he has to write to the IOC. Because of the contention.
Well, rather chaotic, but at the end of the day, we executed every item on the agenda. That's what is important. The Congress, to me, is now successful, right? So, yeah, I would say beginning was chaotic, towards the end chaotic, but we moved on the agenda and concluded the Congress. Why table tennis and rugby are not happy? It depends on who is speaking, okay? The position is, we at the Olympic Committee, we are neutral. We don't take sides with anybody, okay? So when there is time for Congress, as Secretary General, I am requested to submit notices to members, okay? So when you receive the notice directing you on what to do, submit a list of your delegates, and I receive lists from the various federations. You see, everybody came as presented to them, no issue with any other federation except rugby and table tennis. Okay, so first nomination came, we put them on the list for accreditation, and then subsequently another person writes that these are my delegates. So of course there is a conflict. So in resolving the conflict, I need first of all to get some clarity on who their confederation, the African Confederation and International Confederation, do they recognize?
And to the Ghana Premier League, and Justice Blaze scored the only goal as Kumasi Asante Kotoko moved to the summit of the Ghana Premier League table.
But Mohamed Kamara, Mohamed Kamara, he nearly fumbled, giving Karela the opener.
Did in against Karela United. I think I remember against Baseke Holy Stars, similar mistake he did, and today too, he nearly gave away a cheap goal to the travel.
This is the man, Andrew Sintimanu, long one, Kotoko, still holding on to the ball. It's so tense here. Patrick Asiedu trying to go around his markers. Can he get this cross on? Baba Yaya, oh. He's carried the game on Karela, Peter Aqua. It's passed back through. Hey, Baba Yaya, you got down. What did the referee say? It's a penalty.
And I think everyone sides with the decision of the referee. Look at that ball from Peter Amidou Aqua to unleash his colleague. Look at that sweet pass to Babaya.
Justice in Kukuble, need to do justice to the ball. Justice play. 1, 2, 3. Play. The goalkeeper saves it, but the ball enters the net. The goalkeeper managed to get his hand onto the ball.
Incident for Kotoko. Justice Blay, the man, the captain.
Nearly resulted in a goal. Karela still pushing moment forward. A shot. And goalkeeper.
Let's take a look at the full results of the Ghana Premier League match day 18. And that victory from Kumasi Asante Kotoko has taken them to the top of the Premier League table. The full results would have the likes of Baseke Holy Stars holding Accra Hearts of Oak to a 0-0 stalemate. Bechemi United sat at home and won 2-0 against Nations FC. Young Apostles also won 1-0 against Insuat Fremana FC. And Brecum Chelsea were also 1-0 winners in their game against Vision FC. Hearts of Lions returned to winning ways with a 2-1 win against former champions Ediana Stars. Samatex were at home and they were held to a 1-1 stalemate by Dreams FC. Legon Cities also won 1-0 against Bibiani Gold Stars. Gold Stars were at the top, but after losing to Legon Cities and Kumasi Asante Kotoko winning, Kotoko moved to the top of the Premier League. Let's go.
Welcome back on the AM show. It's time now for us to head into our big stories, and it's all about the need to survive versus the public interest, the existential threat of illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey. It rages on with reckless abandon and, of course, emboldened by political actors leaving the people worse off and the nation saddled with this menace. The question: has civil society gone silent on holding the government accountable? And what can the Mahama government do differently to end galamsey now? This morning, we'll be interacting with stakeholders, journalists who have reported on this activity in basically at the peril of their lives. We'll be discussing with them the way forward. But we'll also listen to the Asante Hene Otumfuose II on what he had to say on this matter.
I'm also aware of the threats to your employees also. I've been briefed about that, and therefore that also the steps that you've taken to make sure that your workers and employees are also protected. Sure. Unfortunately, we don't have a minister for lands now. He's gone through vetting, because that's also another step where we will discuss broadly with the government in terms of policy in relation to illegal mining, the galamsey issue. So it's another one. So I know that that will come up after the minister is in place, and then we have a very candid and thorough meeting with the president and the minister to see the way forward in relation to dealing with that. I recall in 2016 where this issue came up at that time. And I'm also saying that we should see the portion of about 60 acres or whatever to the illegal miners at that time. And all that. In fact, there were vibes that even though Anglo Gold honors this part, the portion didn't go to the people that were supposed to go to. And even though that was done, Anglo Gold honored their part, and we ceded the 60%, 60 whatever acres to whatever. So this all has been lingering, and people arguing that it didn't come to us, so we didn't have anywhere to go. And that is also not acceptable for people to take the law into their own hands to go and disturb legitimate business, which Anglo Gold and Obuasi are intertwined. The community relies on the mining company. The mining company also is there because it's for the community, and that it is not acceptable. People cannot just say that because we want to eat, we have to go to the mine. No, that cannot be done. We are not living in a banana republic. The law must be obeyed. Because if I'm living in my house here, this lease has been given to me. Someone just cannot walk in to say, I also want somewhere to live, and therefore I'm coming to live in your house.
Well, there's also this video of a woman who, days to the 2024 elections, had this to say. It has left a lot scratching their heads about the assault on Obuasi.
The state of what's coming from the show. Yeah, go home. We are the chicks on the hammer. Me and the water go yes, so. May I have to say the money? Come on. The best one number. Nothing. You didn't get something. I think. Yes, money in the area. Me as a political organizer, I was going to $2 yeah, we go vote now. We won't say Papa starting now. Now we catch the memory from over checks on the hammer. Yes, I'm
Well, so we ask this morning, well thought out, and is it being executed? You heard her make mention of a number of things, including, like we mentioned, that suggestion about going to Obuasi. In the studio with me is Sweetie Abochi. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
Here we are.
Yeah, look at our background.
It's a very disturbing scene there, and this is not some beverage. It is our water bodies and different swathes of land in mining areas that have been left deteriorated, brought to this point.
Let's speak to our guests and find out from them how things are looking from their perspective. Joining us via Zoom is Samuel Osei-Bekwai. He's Executive Director, Center for Executives and Development Africa. We also have Awula Sewa. She's founder, Eco-Conscious Citizens, as well as Dr. Ken Ashigbe for Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, as well as Ohiming Tewia. He's a journalist with Love FM, and Erastus Asari Donko. He's editor at Love FM. I want to start with Erastus Asari Donko. Erastus, thank you for joining the conversation. Now, the uproar we saw in the lead up to election 2024, that is, on the fight against illegal mining versus what we are seeing now. What can you tell us about our approach to this menace? Well, we will try to reconnect with Erastus Asare Donko, but let me move to Dr. Ken Ashigbe. Doc, thank you too for joining the conversation. Like I was saying, the uproar we saw in the last days of 2024 versus what we are seeing in the early days of 2025 seems like there's a difference. What can you tell us about the difference in approach to the fight against Galamsey?
Well, thank you very much, T. I'm not too sure anything has really changed. You know, in 2016, after the elections, and then early 2017, we saw a transition. We saw a transition from the NDC criminals who were mining to the MPP criminals who then took over the concessions. Currently, what is happening is the fact that the NDC criminals again are taking over from the MPP criminals who are sinning against the Minerals and Mining Act and are involved in the nefarious and dangerous genocidal and ecocidal activities that is destroying our lands, killing our people, and destroying our water and our environment. Unfortunately, what has happened is that you know that there has been, the government since it took over power has taken some particular actions. You saw Oral being formed. You saw a committee that was put up immediately. There was a challenge with our fuel for our electricity supply. You also saw that when the SHS students had challenges with their food, there was also an intervention made. You know, there were orders issued for people to hand over their diplomatic passports, people, you know, to leave office. But there has been a loud silence about, you know, the issue that is actually also destroying our life, even worse than corruption is doing to us. You know, we've not had anything. So what happened is that the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, we wrote to His Excellency the President, reminding him of that and asking for an engagement. But most importantly, also asking him to issue a cease and desist order. We're still waiting for feedback from him. And then what we then did was on the 20th of January, last week, we issued a statement as well, updating Ghanaians of what the situation is. Because the challenge that confronts us has not gone away. You know, it's even become worse. And so it is surprising that we are finding out from Joy News, your research that you have done, that apparently when we thought that there was nobody actually acting, you know, this current government in their tenure have actually issued one permit. And I'm sure because they don't have a minister, they'll be waiting for the minister to sign it. But then after the elections, the former government went on issuing almost 100 permits. And you would have wondered that the transitional team, as they had asked that the government that was the outgoing government should hold on onto all better things, they would also have held on onto granting licenses. So it's really a disturbing occasion. And it's important for all of us to realize that in as much as we know that His Excellency the President, in his 120-day social contract with all of us Ghanaians, has number 19 to deal with the challenges of Galamsey. The silence is deafening. And we're hoping that after today's vetting of the minister designate, we will see immediate action to, you know, declare the state of emergency on our water bodies in our forest reserves. Right. Take action to do the other things that we had asked for.
Thank you so much. Let's get on phone now and speak to Samuel Osei-Bekwe. He is Executive Director, Center for Extractives and Development Africa. Sir, thank you for joining the conversation. What does the fight against Galamsey look like at this point, from your perspective? How has the fight evolved?
Thank you. Good morning to all your viewers as well. I think with the incoming government, as Mr. Shigwe has mentioned, I have reviewed their manifesto. They were very clear about the commitment to the fight against galamsey. I am on the ground most times because I'm doing a lot of work and research in the sector. It is very difficult for you to use a state agency like MINCOM to fight galamsey. The number of persons involved in the activity, in the villages, in the very remote areas, I mean, Erastus would be able to attest to that. Number of foreigners, including Burkinabés, including Beninois, it's really going to be very difficult for you to get them off the bush. But there is one thing we can do, as Ken mentioned. For me, I think declaring a state of emergency may work up to some point, given that, as Ken mentioned, if this is to do with mafias, once the MPP mafias are leaving, the NDC mafias will be coming in. But one thing I have noticed about the small-scale miners, including both legal and illegal, is that some of them are doing a very good work without disturbing any river or disturbing certain forests as well. We have tried to work within them to ensure that they become checks on each other. And so the National Small-Scale Mining Association have tried their best to some extent. What I can suggest would be the government, after declaring the state of emergency, working with the miners to say that if you don't report those who are destroying the river bodies, I will ban galamsey. Trust me, this is the livelihood of many. And in fact, that will not come at a bigger cost to most of the miners, because the same excavator you are going to use to clear the land and start digging, you can use the same excavator to create what we call the recirculation pond. In some areas, they have even gone ahead to dig what we call boreholes to supply them water. So for me, I think that would work. Some state of emergency, but then working within the small-scale miners to ensure that they become checks on each other. Otherwise, we have tried the approach of military intervention. We have tried the approach of banning it for 2 years, and still that was even the year small-scale mining gold went up. But we need to have a plan, and it will be quite unfair to the new government, given that the minister is being vetted today, to say that they have not been able to do something. Let me comment a little bit about the licensing. We in the sector, we knew there were so many applications that the previous minister was not signing. And a lot of the applications were even coming from some of them who were doing legal mining. And I believe because they lost power, he kind of quickly, or it became, I'm sure it became like, let me get the minister to sign my license before he leaves. Otherwise, the new minister is going to, of course, probably want to do an audit before he starts signing. So I guess, that's my best guess, would be that is the reason for this increase, sharp increase in the issuance of mineral licenses, especially in the small-scale mining. So that is probably the reason why. And that is not right. We have to say that. That is not right. Whether even a proper diligence by the minister himself, because he signs those documents. But Minerals Commission does all the reviews before they give it to the minister. Whether the minister had taken time to even go over most of them, we are not sure of that.
Thank you. Let me get some quick comments from Awula Sewa as well, founder for Eco-Conscious Citizens. I've been seeing your posts on X, especially about, I think in terms of the civil society organizations who used to fight for galamsey, you are the ones who I still see that, you haven't given up on the fight yet. However, Ken Ashigbe is saying that nothing really has changed. NDC criminals, like he says, are taking over from the NPP criminals. From your perspective, has the change in government impacted the fight in any way?
Of course not. But let me first make a comment. The previous speaker talked about banning galamsey. You see, we have to be very clear about language. If by galamsey you mean illegal mining, what is illegal is a criminal activity. So it's not a question of banning it. It's a question of enforcing the laws. You don't ban stealing. Stealing is a criminal offense. So let's be clear about what we mean by galamsey. If we mean illegal mining, it's a criminal activity, and the laws should be enforced. Second of all, I completely agree with my brother Ken. We didn't vote for musical chairs. We didn't vote for one set of criminals replacing another set of criminals. And that is what seems to be happening. And that is why we have been very, very clear. President Trump I'm no fan of President Trump. I'm no fan of President Trump. But the things that he said he would do, he's not waiting for 100 days or 120 days. Whilst he was waiting to be formally whatever, he had already planned what he was doing. And from day one, he hits the ground running. There's absolutely no excuse for the length of time that it is taking. Either we believe we face an existential threat or we don't believe it. If we believe our house is burning, what on earth is stopping us from reacting? When it came to Anglo Gold, the president was quick to react and asked for Anglo Gold to pay for the medical bills of the trespassers. But what has happened right now with journalists being attacked, with the team being attacked, I haven't yet heard him respond. What I would say, and I said it during the election time, there seemed to be no seriousness about dealing with illegal mining. You're talking about oral. That's all well and good. Let's retrieve stolen property. But of what good is that going to be if we are all dying from, having been poisoned? If we've all fighting for dialysis machines because of the kidney disease that we have got through the poisoning of our water. So it's a question of priorities. Either we don't believe that we face an existential threat, or we are just not serious. And second of all, Ghana was prepared to send troops to a neighboring country when there was a coup. But you're trying to tell me that we don't have the manpower to deal effectively with the illegal miners. Before you go, you count the cost. You know that it's not dealing with two people. So you go properly equipped so that they can't later on accost you on motorbikes and so on and so forth. We know where we are dealing with. And I'm saying that if we don't take matters seriously, we will go down the line of some Latin American countries where the drug cartels are controlling certain parts of the country. We're on a very slippery slope. And if we don't act yesterday, the next best time is today. We are all going to face irreparable damage. So I'm calling on the president. We have also written to him because we are saying that if he's serious about revoking EI 144, he doesn't need anybody. He can do it straight away. If he's serious about the state of emergency, it can be declared. If he's serious about revoking LI 2462, why has nothing been laid before Parliament? It can be passed straight away. They have the majority, and even the NPP claimed they were going to revoke it. So we want to see some seriousness. State of emergency, revoke LI 2462 and pause community mining. And then seriously, with a state of emergency, remove everybody from our forest reserves and water bodies. No mining, absolutely no mining, even if they purport to have licenses, should be taking place in forest reserves or water bodies.
Right. Ben, I'm hearing that nothing really has changed. What over to you?
Well, I will put that question to Erastus Asaridonko. He's been on the ground. He's been there, done that. Erastus, has anything changed for you? And for those of you who have been on the ground, what's the situation been like on the back of recent assaults?
Prompt answer. I would say that we have learned right from when government changed that the various elements in government have started reaching out to the kingpins of Galamsey. What I mean is that there are people who are fronting and who were fronting for the previous administration and elements in that government to destroy forests. And we have strong evidence to the effect that they have been linking up with these people and saying that, yes, we're going to use you, we're going to work with you, and all that. A typical example is what we are seeing in the Tano Anua Forest Reserve. Remember, that forest was invaded first by the previous administration. Very key elements in that government started wreaking havoc in that forest. And as they left, we are learning that more people have invaded the forest. And there are 3 groups currently working. And as of yesterday, they were working. I had fresh drone footage indicating they destroying the forest in there. One led by a known NDC activist called Karim. Another one is led by a known NDC activist known as Baron. And the other one, they call him Mahama bodyguard. He is also leading the other group. And they pitched camp directly inside the forest. In fact, they've been fighting amongst themselves to the extent that 2 people have already died from gunshot wounds. A third one is in critical condition, and they are still actively mining. In fact, all the actors, the various people on the ground, point accusing fingers at the MP for our win. But when I called him, he's denying it. But everybody on the ground is saying he's the one who sponsored the group to bring them inside the forest in the first place.
Erastus, before you go on, when you say everyone you speak to points to the Awin MP, who is everyone?
Everyone, stakeholders, those who are mining. We have NDC groups that we've been speaking with, former chairmen, former organizers, who are all pointing accusing fingers at him. But when I called him, he says he has no involvement, he has no interest in mining there. He only advocated that if people are being granted the chance to mine, then his boys, who are known party activists, should be allowed to also mine. To me, that's an illegality. And I was asking him the same question, that if you advocate that your boys, who are NDC people, should be allowed to mine, is that not condoning an illegality? Because one, they do not have license to mine in a forest reserve. There are strict regulations already. There's somebody who owns that concession. That person has a mining lease, but he has not been allowed to mine. Even when he was pitching his camp, just building structures outside the forest, he was asked to stop and go through the process and get Water Resources Commission license before he's allowed to even build his own structures that he don't live in. So how much more can you allow over 17 excavators to enter the forest, all under the pretext that they should be allowed to mine because they are party boys? That is my confusion. We have laws. Every part, every section of mining in this country is guarded by laws. And inside that law, it tells you how to mine in a forest reserve, the steps to be taken at every given step. Why do we want to go the other way around? And I think it's something that we need to critically look at. Now, when I said that government elements are supporting this, the forest reserve is a no-go area. In fact, the Forestry Commission guards it with their lives. To be able to cart one excavator into a forest, you might have a very big, huge political backing, or else you can't. So to move over 17 excavators into the Tananya Forest Reserve requires that you have a strong person behind you. And that is why they are able to pitch camp inside the forest. And even when we had done the story and put the story out there, they have not been flashed out. They continue to mine illegally and boldly with guns. I have videos of them, brandishing their pistols and, weapons in there, that whoever dares come in there, they are going to deal with the person. So I think that we should not condone that impunity which existed in the previous administration that has gotten the Pamprama Forest Reserve, 50% of it, now pits and gullies. We are looking for millions of dollars to reclaim that forest. So why do we want to add more pits and gullies to Pamprama and then start looking for money that the taxpayer is going to pay?
Just a quick final bit with you, Erastus, and you've broached the subject of some of what I was going to get into. So some Forestry Commission staff were recently assaulted, beaten to a pulp. We saw the video. Over 17 excavators, like you rightly mentioned, and it would take some logistical, and maybe political backing to be able to get even one excavator into such an area. Are you then of the opinion, like Dr. Kenashigbe mentioned, that indeed nothing has changed in the fight against Galamsey? And I also want to confirm, is that to say that there's not been any proper interaction with the Awin MP? All he has done is deny, but there's been no proper interaction with him to find out what exactly is going on.
Well, I have asked him so many times that question. So what is going on? He says he doesn't know. but I am privy to certain conversations that indicate that he indeed knows something and is aware of something. And he has reached out to certain people, though he denies it. The other point is that I wouldn't say nothing has changed and that the status quo is the same. Again, I will also want to believe that nothing has changed, and I'll tell you why. Since I aired this story and I've been posting it on my Facebook page and has attracted a large public uproar, I've gotten calls from a number of people from the seat of government. And in fact, I will not be able to disclose what they told me about what they're going to do this morning. And that is a change, because previously I've done how many reports? I've done a whole bit on Tanon Imre. I've done a whole bit on forest under siege. On Apamprama, nothing happened. Not even a cough from any government minister. Even when I sent my works to the ministers themselves on their WhatsApp pages, nobody contacted me. So to me, that's a start. And I'm waiting to see what will happen today, at the close of day today, what will happen to that invasion in the forest. Again, I've also received calls from the new minister who wants to express interest to work with us. I mean, the media, to be able to, he says they are not going to go the same way that the previous administration went. So I am bating my breath and holding on for the next few days after his vetting and all that to see the plan that this government has for Galamsey. And we're going to do our work as diligently as we have done. That I can assure everybody.
I see. Interesting, very interesting developments there. At least this shows some action, and hopefully action that will not remain on the surface of words, but will actually be brought to bear. But let me quickly run this by the rest of you. I'll start with you, Dr. Kenashigbe. You said that less than about 100 licenses had been granted before January the 7th. It's actually 102. There were 103, one granted after the 7th, specifically on January the 19th, and 102 between January the 1st and January the 6th by the outgone Akufo-Addo administration. But you speak about a cease and desist order. You speak about a state of emergency. If I asked you, on the back of all of the happenings, party people getting in there, Galamsey being what it is, what Erastus has spoken of, Awula Sewa talking about LI 2462, among others, what would be your simple roadmap as of today for, let's say, the next month, the next quarter, in dealing with Galamsey? What would you say, Dr. Ashigbe?
Well, thank you very much. And so, again, it's deja vu for us. And so, for myself and you, the media, and who've been involved in this, we've seen how these things happen. And I'm happy with the feedback that Erastus has given. That's a good sign. And also, so someone talked about what is in the manifestos of the NDC itself. And I would extend it to say what is in the manifestos of the MPP as well, and what the president has said they should do. But you see, it is not for nothing that our old folks say, so it is important for us to stop, to put a halt to what is happening, and let everybody see every activity that they are doing. And as Awula has said, the water bodies, the buffers of the water bodies, the forest reserves completely should be no-go areas. So those ones should completely be said that cannot happen. Then once we have done that, because this is a new regime that has come in, and they have plans already in there, it is important that the engagement should happen. But you cannot have the engagement happening when these distractions are happening. And the signaling should be very, very strong. The president himself had mentioned earlier on that, if you are in his government, you are not going to be allowed to be engaged in these activities. So definitely this minister for, this MP for Awen, need to be brought, because For him, he's one of the few leaders who are currently in place in the Awen place. And 17 excavators. Who is the police commander in that particular district or constituency? Who are the intelligence chiefs in that constituency? Who are the EPA bosses? Who are the MENCOM people? All of these should be brought in to say they need to answer. As Awula will tell you, in the past regime, the firefighters were the arsonists. And all of these people were involved in the crime. The people in the Jubilee House who were all involved in it. So if we really would want to say that we're going to change this, then we need to start telling those who are still at post, those who are supposed to be in those communities, that the days where we're going to accept mining happening a few meters away from a police post are completely long gone. And we would hold you accountable. So those are the things that we need to do. But you see, Professor Gordon says something, that Galamsey is a wicked problem, needs a lot of research, needs a lot of engagement. So once we do that cease and desist, allowing the water bodies, the forest to breathe, then we can then come up with strategies about, this whole gold bond and getting people, getting the geological survey people to do the survey and mapping of where actually mining should be happening. But the airline has to completely go. We need to move out all of those equipment from those places. We need to ensure that who are those 17 excavators, who imported them into this country. We also need to make sure that situations like Akonta mining, for example, where you had for once, you had the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources point out to the then Ashanti Regional chairman of the MPP, who and another are the directors of Akonta mining, who are involved. Erastus has video footages of it. The Forestry Commission has a report that shows that that man was involved in an illegality. That man by now should be taken to court. Heritage Imperial, another large-scale miner who were given prospecting licenses, who were in the Praprama Forest Reserve mining with over 36 excavators. They went to court in suing Erastus. They themselves confessed in their court document that they are mining operations. But we had written to the EPA, and the EPA had told us that they did not have a permit to begin those mining. So we need to start showing that these people who were involved in the destruction of our land, the killing of our people, they will be facing, the laws that we have in our country. And so those signals have to be given immediately. That young woman who we saw on your video, asking for that illegality to be done. Again, she sits against the Minerals and Mining Act. She should be hauled before court to be able to answer. The former DCE of one of the DC who was caught on tape confessing to an illegality. All of these people have to be punished. Right, and that's the roadmap for you. I'll throw that same question to Awula Sewa. One of the excavators, you would see a certain company's name on the excavator. I am refraining from mentioning the name. But what would be your roadmap? And, for example, looking at the licenses that have been granted in recent times, should we be looking into the 103, not just the 102 prior to this administration taking over? Should we be looking into those licenses?
Of course we should, but let me first start by commending all the journalists, Erastus, Ohimeng, all the journalists who are putting their lives on the line to try and avert this existential crisis we're facing. But of course, we know the owners, or we should know the owners of these excavators, and they should be brought before court, they should be prosecuted. But we have set our roadmap. We cannot have a situation where forest guards are assaulted, and it seems like the order of the day. As I said, we are slipping into parts of Latin America where drug cartels control parts of the country. That's not what we want for Ghana. So if the president is serious, immediately he must declare a state of emergency. We must revoke EI 144 and LI 2462. We should not have anybody in our forest reserves, let alone those with globally significant biodiversity areas. And as has been eloquently said by my brother Ken, of course we should revoke all mining licenses. Of course there should be a pause on mining until we can get our act together. And let me be absolutely clear.
When you say clarify for me, Awula, revoke all mining licenses. Which aspects of mining are you? Okay.
All mining licenses in forest reserves, in my opinion, should be revoked, and we should desist from issuing any more until we can go over them and find out who is doing the right thing, who is not. Because as has been said, the fact that you have a mining license doesn't mean you can just start mining. But that's what happens most of the time because there's no enforcement. We are allergic to enforcement. We made a complaint in Atronsu when persons claiming to have a community license were mining. The EPA asked whether they had an EPA license. We wouldn't know because we don't work with the EPA. But to date, none of the EPA officials, to my knowledge, have gone to confirming. And then I'm thinking that it's very, very important that, as has been said, we look into the report that Professor Frimpong Boateng wrote, which was hiding under somebody's desk until the press uncovered it. All those mentioned should be seriously investigated and prosecuted. And those found guilty, their assets should be used towards the reclamation. We've talked about how expensive it is to reclaim. So we just keep on causing a mess and then we go and beg for money to reclaim. What kind of, this is absolute nonsense. So all those who are polluting our water bodies and our landscape should know that the polluter pays. Will be operating the polluter pays principle. If all your assets are stolen, all your assets are used, it will teach other people that this is not the way to go. And let me say this here, we keep on talking about the livelihood of miners. What about the livelihood of peasant farmers and fishermen? According to the Peasant Farmers Association, over 2 million peasant farmers are at risk of losing their livelihood because of the canker going on. What about them? So I'm saying that we should get our priorities right. We face an existential threat. The roadmap is to declare a state of emergency, remove all miners and mining equipment from our forest reserves and our water bodies, and then simultaneously revoke EI 144, which the president can do today if he's minded to do so, and revoke LI 2462, and stop doing mining licenses. The Minerals Commission, I'm surprised the CEO is still at post. But they should stop issuing mining licenses.
You're referring to Martin AEC. And Sweetie, it's interesting because we brought that story in recent times where you got us the news where, in fact, a fisherman had gone, the fisher folk were going, and they would get fish that were badly injured with, all kinds of sores and all that, which meant that they could not be consumed.
Tragic.
Absolutely.
But I want to stay with Aula Sewa. Last year, there was a Galamsey Pact that was signed by the aspirants to end Galamsey within 3 months. I saw a post by Professor Jampo saying that they are meeting with governments to remind them of that pact. But as part of the roadmap last year, there was the option of looking to international bodies, international eco-conscious bodies, to help propel the fight. If, we were saying that the previous administration lacked the political will to actually halt this menace. Is it too early for us to still, look to international bodies to help us, or we should still give this administration some room?
We can do that, but I believe in self-help. That we can stop it today by ourselves if we are, as you said, the political will may not be there. But what the citizenry can
Wait, is it your opinion that this administration, although it's a bit early, do you think they also lack the political will to tackle this head on?
I haven't seen it. They were quick to respond, as I said, when trespassers went to Anglo Gold. They were quick to respond. I haven't seen any response since, for example, Ohimeng and others were attacked. I haven't seen, maybe it was done and I have missed it, but I haven't seen any response. The recent assault on, when Erastus tells us that they've reached out to him, fair enough, but so far as the public is concerned, we haven't seen any public response about the mayhem and the anarchy and lawlessness going on. So I don't see the political will to do anything about it. But of course, there might be things going on that I am not aware of.
Dr. Kenashigbe, this pact that was signed, has it lost its purpose?
Oh, no. I'm not too sure. Well, in our letter to His Excellency the President, we reminded him of that. It's important to note that he was the first to have signed it. And so I would want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But unfortunately, it's eroding quite quickly with some of the things that are happening. But fortunately for us today, Erastus has talked about the reaching out that has happened. And so we're hoping that these meetings would happen. and this cease and desist order would happen, I'm hoping that the MPs who are on the committee today would ask questions, direct questions of the minister designate, and we will see something from happening. So I would want, I'm a perpetual optimist, and the same way we gave His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo the benefit of the doubt and worked with him for him to jump on and then tell us that he was prepared to put his presidency on the line. I am hoping that His Excellency John Mahama will not just tell us that he is prepared, but he will actually put his presidency on the line and then work with us to ensure that that pact that he signed with us, comes in place. So again, I'll go with Aula and say that let's do it locally. Let's try and get ourselves to start it, because we can do it. We can fix this problem. If His Excellency wants us to fix it, we can fix it.
Right. Mr. Bekwai, I know you've been listening for a while, so first you can reflect on everything that's been said so far and then add your perspective to it in terms of the political will demonstrated by this administration to fight Galamsey. What are your thoughts?
I would say that the political will be it's too early for you to assess, because as I said, the minister has also reached out to us CSOs that he wants to work with us, particularly the government plan to introduce the gold board. The government has, in their manifesto said the gold board would probably, I'm not sure yet, they said will probably take on the regulation of the small scale sector in dealing with the sales of the gold from the small scale sector. It will be very difficult until the minister is in power or has taken over. It will be very difficult to assess the political will. But in their manifesto, they committed and they signed a pact, which we were all around there, that they were going to fight Galamsey/illegal mining. I believe that for now, I also agree with what we had pushed the government to commit to, which is some sort of state of emergency on the rivers and the forest reserves. These are
Mr. Bekwai, are you still with us? I think we lost Mr. Bekwai. Oh, I would have loved to listen to the end of it. Mr. Bekwai? Okay,
we'll try to get Mr. Bekwai back. Dr. Ashigbe, I am curious, with everything that has been said, I go back to the statement from the Ghana Coalition against Galamsey, and you write in that latest statement dated the 20th of January, despite these efforts, and you've mentioned a number of them, since the December 2024 elections, we have witnessed a further decline in the situation. The perpetrators have exploited perceived leadership and governmental silence on the matter, leading to an increase in illegal mining activities. Keyword there, silence. The president has been accused of not saying much, if anything at all, on Galamsey. How long for you before the time runs out for Mr. President in terms of actively, not just working behind the scenes, but speaking about illegal mining?
So thank you. Well, fortunately, I think His Excellency has a good opportunity today at the vetting of the minister designate. I am very hopeful that we should hear something from His Excellency so that immediately after today, we should be able to start seeing some action being done. If we take what has been happening, then once the vetting is done, almost immediately the ministers are then sworn in. I am hoping that at the swearing in of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and I am just assuming that he would still be responsible for the whole mining thing, we would hear something very definitive from His Excellency the President. But you see, as Joy News has started it today, as the media has started it today, we need to up the ante so far as the conversation around this illegality is concerned. It is important that over the 50 organizations that spoke about this calamity that befalls us, we should all know that nothing has changed. The calamity is still continuing. And so we all need to ratchet up, the octave, take the noise an octave up, and let, the politicians know that as the Constitution says, sovereignty comes from us. I was listening to Felix Ofosu-Kwakye yesterday, and he spoke some very wise words of wisdom about the fact that it is us who have elected these people into office. So the time has come. We showed it in the elections where we decided that arrogance, disrespect for citizens were not going to be tolerated again. And so it is important for anybody who has been elected into office, be it NDC or MPP, whoever has been appointed, to realize the fact that the time where we sat docilely and we allowed them to do what they wanted to do, profiting from our death, profiting from our injury, has all gone.
So the time is now, right?
Or the time is today or yesterday.
Okay.
So that MP from Awen, it is important that he really comes very clean, because all of us, we will definitely be going for him as an example to show to people that we're not going to anybody to do that.
Sweetie, let's head back to Mr. Bequim.
Yeah, we lost you there briefly, Mr. Bequim.
Yes, I agree that there should be a state of emergency on the rivers and the forest reserves. That is really key. And we can combine technology to fight that. I know we are all talking about this, but if you ask a raptor, the ground terrain is not easy to access sometimes. It needs technology, whether drones, whether helicopters, whatever it is. We have also tested some technologies that help in terms of human heat, detecting human heat in certain forest reserves that you are not supposed to see a lot of people there, to be able to know and tracking down where the movement have been. And we've got to know that it was from these forests straight to the China towns in Kumasi and then to Dubai and then to China. We track all of that. It was a pilot project, but it worked very well with the technology. That would be key in terms of trying to fight the rivers, fight distraction to our rivers and our forest reserves. With regards to, I know my other speaker talked about the fact that it's illegal and it's it's a criminal activity. Yes, of course, the amendment in 2019 makes it even worse in terms of mining illegally. However, we have to be very realistic in our approach in fighting this. In areas that are not forest reserves, in areas that are community land, the community feels very dejected when they thought that people got license from Accra and came to be on their land. They didn't have any right to stop them. So all of them have now gotten themselves involved. And fighting such illegality, as mentioned, without the community support has been very difficult. And sometimes you get the police there, the community themselves call these miners to run away because the police are coming to them, or the military men or minerals commission are coming to them. So we need to also try and see what we want to do with the communities who have gotten themselves involved. They feel this is their livelihood. They feel this is something that they are dependent on. Some of them are gold dealers. Some of them are benefiting because of demand for food, among others. So they themselves don't want this to be fought. Some of them, not all, because of their dependency on it. So the approach has to be very, very collaborative. It has to be stakeholder focused. I know we are going to have a national dialogue on economy, but if there is opportunity, we should have a community-level dialogue to decide with the community what approaches will be good for them to fight this, because they also don't like the fact that their rivers have been destroyed. I have been going to Amansia West, and as I speak to you, Erastus knows this. Amansia West bordering central region, which is Dunkao area. So from the Chirobwasi, you enter into certain Apabwaso and all these areas. There is no river with fish anymore. I can say that on authority. No stream, no tributary, no river with any fish in it. Because all of them have been destroyed with mud, with debris, and then there are no fishes in these rivers. And so it's very concerning to them. The timing, as have been asked, I think is also now. Once the minister finishes, that should be one of his priorities. How are we going to deal with it? But the state of emergency should come immediately for the rivers and the forest reserves. And I agree with that.
Thank you. I will go to Ohiming Tewia in a bit, but I want to find out from Awola Sewa briefly, what would be your assessment of the citizens ourselves, our fight or approach to this? Last year, you saw how many people poured out on the streets, which resulted in people arrested. International media picked it up. Would you say that we still have that fight in us as we speak?
Yes, I mean, I've seen posts that if nothing changes, there'll be a demonstration on 6th March. I have seen that. But what I would say is that we should all realize that Ghana belongs to all of us. And the idea that when you win elections, that means that you are coming to plunder the country should be a thing of the past. We did not vote decisively in these elections for another group of criminals to take over one group of criminals. Ghanaians have to know that Ghana belongs to all of us. And as I keep on saying, this canker is killing us, poisoning us, but also destroying the livelihood of fishermen. We've just heard that a lot of the water bodies have no fish, and also of peasant farmers. And it's not true that mining is the only occupation left. And in many communities, they are against the so-called community mining. So the people I used to say that we're not angry enough. I used to keep on saying we're not angry. But I think the anger is coming. And when we go on demonstrations, it should be orderly. It should be lawful, because we don't believe in lawlessness. And we shouldn't give the police the excuse to come and arrest any of us. So everything should be lawful. But the government should know that there's no honeymoon period, because we face an existential threat. They ought to have been planning before the elections. Any serious person who wants to take over power, before you get the power, you're in the drawing room planning. So as soon as you get the power, not now thinking of who you're going to put here and there. Everything is already in place. As I said, I'm no fan of President Trump, but at least he knew what he wanted to do, and he wasn't waiting for 100 days or 120 days, which frankly is far too long. If we believe that we face an existential threat, how on earth would we give anybody 120 days to deal with such a serious problem?
Thank you so much, Awola Sewa. Let's talk to Ohiming Tewia now, a journalist with Love FM. Ohiming, you also on the front line. Talk to us about what's changed in terms of the status quo right now and the threats that you face as journalists still on the fight to shed light on what's happening to our river bodies and forest reserves.
Thank you, Siti. I will say, for now, I have been battling for my life for some time now.
Ohiming, kindly speak up for us.
I'm sorry, because I'm unable to shout on top of my voice because of my current situation. So I'm very, very sorry if you can.
It's okay, we'll manage. Go ahead.
Yes, so I've gone through a lot looking at the expose that I did on illegal mining in the Ofei shelter bed. Prior to elections, I got an information that many actors, as at that time, those in government corridors of power, those in the security agencies, and even traditional leaders and local politicians and national politicians were all involved, and they were plundering the forest reserve. So, in the first place, I went in as undercover, a journalist, to uncover what was really happening. And on the ground, then I realized what I was dealing with was so heavier, was so higher, was so powerful, because people who were so powerful were involved, as mentioned earlier. And even to some extent, national security operatives were the ones providing security at this mining site. So remember the story on 5th December, where the Forestry Commission officials looked helpless, complaining, throwing their hands in the air, that the forests have been taken over by people that they describe as thugs.
Oh, that's not a good sound to hear at all.
Really, really sad development there. We'll try to quickly circle back to Ohiming Tewia. But that brings me to this quick thought, Sweetie and our guests this morning. How effective do we feel the military can be in this fight? Because we've always used the military in there. How effective can they be, and how do we empower the Forestry Commission? Because literally, they have thrown their hands in the air. Basically, they've lost the fight. How do we empower them? Maybe quickly before we get Ohiming Teria back, I'll throw that to Awula Sewa and Dr. Ashigbe. Very brief thoughts on that. Awula.
Let me say that I'm a bit disappointed. I mean, we've seen the journalists being beaten up, and Ohimeng suffered life-threatening injury, but I didn't see enough anger from the media. Enough anger from the media. One of your own, your own are being attacked, and I didn't see enough anger from the media. But what I would say is that our army is professional. When well headed, they're able to do what they need to do. So what is happening right now is that there's not much leadership going on. But I believe that if we properly equip the army, they are competent when they choose to be. They are professional enough to deal with this problem. But first of all, you do preparations. You have your drones and so on, and so find out the opposition before you go in and make sure that you secure the area properly. And I wouldn't say the forestry people have thrown their arms in the air. They are being attacked with not much help. What can they actually do in the face of what is going on? So if we really want to clamp down on illegal mining, we need to look at the appropriate support for those who are literally putting their lives on the line, to protect our forest reserves and our water bodies. We need to have a properly equipped military presence. That's the only way we're going to make some headway.
Two quick follow-ups. One, we have also seen that in the past, it has been possible in some instances. If you remember the expose, which pointed to Charles Bissu, right? The military, at some point, some of them have been complicit in all of this. How do we deal with that? And there has also been the call from last year. Some have suggested, if we're going to end this, we must be brutal, radical, shoot to kill. What do you think?
Well, as a lawyer, I don't believe in shoot to kill because, you cannot kill anybody and, well, only in self-defense. That is my policy, only in self-defense. Of course, if people are shooting at you, well, they ask for it, nothing can be done. But what happens is that when we find elements of the army misbehaving, we have to deal with them brutally straight away. Court-martial them, prosecute them, do whatever needs to be done. But we're not doing that, and that is why it's festering. I believe that our military can do what they need to do if we make sure that should they deviate from their task, we deal with them.
All right. Doc, I'll come to you later on that same point. But, sweetie, for now, let's go back.
Yeah, Ohiming Teria is back online with us, and he was narrating his ordeal. Ohiming, please go ahead. We lost you briefly. Ohiming Teria, if you can hear me, please unmute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
I think it's good.
Yes, you were telling us about your deal, what happened to you and some things that you are looking to seeing. I lost the story, the plot of it.
Yes, so after the expose, December, on joinings, and then this December, of December, I had a call from my source, a national security did inform me. Team.
Ohiming, we're losing very important things, very important aspects of what you're saying. Just backtrack about 30 seconds and start again, please.
Okay. I hope it's better now.
Yes,
I think it is.
The network is very, very poor today.
So after the expose, yeah.
Yes. With my security source, who told me of the impending police raid at the site, and if I'm interested, then I can join.
No.
I myself and the camera technician were embedded in the police team that left the Ashanti Regional Police Headquarters at Edum just to raid at the mining site. So in the convoy of about 4 vehicles, we entered at a community called Ariafutu in the Atumamponua district. Prior to, I was aware that this was a virgin forest where no...
Is it possible to move around a bit to see if you get a more a stable place? Because we are missing some words and it's difficult to piece them together. Well, while we wait and see how, maybe we can try and reconnect with Ohiming on a different line to see if it will be better then.
Well, let me, as we work at that, let me throw that question to you as well. The involvement of the military, how effective it will be, and making the Forestry Commission officials feel they have what it takes to do the work. Because for now, I know Awula Sewa disagrees, but for now, because they don't have what it takes, they feel it doesn't make sense to do what they are mandated to do because their lives are at risk. Dr. Ashigbe, any quick reflections on that before we circle back to Ohim Interior?
See, the Forestry Commission, they are they've been militarized to an extent where some of their forest guards are giving some weaponry. But the thing to realize is that these galamseyers are coming very heavily armed. If you remember when we're doing Operation Vanguard, the number of arms and ammunition that are seized, and even if you see some of the videos that Erastus has shared very recently, the level of armament that these people carry. Don't forget, in the last government, the Eastern Regional Minister had gone with 30 men to an operation. When they got there, they had to retreat because of the level of arms that those people were carrying. And for me, it was an intelligence failure then. As Awula had said, when you're going into these operations, our expectation is that you need intelligence to guide you to know what strengths they have. And you see, this is an existential threat, as we've been saying. And the army, the military are prepared to deal with it. These are enemies of the state who are actually wanting to destroy us from within.
This is basically a war, isn't it?
It's definitely more than even a war. This is genocide that is being committed. So you definitely would have to go in with the army. And you know the thing, the army, during Operation Vanguard, some of the army people were court-martialed. The challenge we have had is the political will, the fact that you have had people at the very top being complicit and involved in it. That is what has happened. But if you allow the army to do what they are empowered to do, they will be able to do it. These are Ghanaian army people that have excelled in peacekeeping action, where they go into the theaters of war and are able to do with it. They will deal with these issues those who are in authority do not meddle in it, and we ensure that the law works. Professor Gordon prescribed a Ghana as a solution, and the first, the G is good governance. So if we do it in such a way that His Excellency the President would, as Commander-in-Chief, would give them marching orders to say, deal with this. You are not going to get any big man has called you, and it happens. They go arrest the people, and then they call them, they tell them, oh, let these people go. If that is not going to happen, you would find out that the army would be able to do it. So once we can empower, and you see, and so that's why, so the first one is Ghana. The second, your age is harnessing our local authorities, bringing all of them also in. So the solution is not one fit all. It's not just militarization. It is about various things about it, changing the attitudes of the youth, the issue of using natural methods. All of them are part of the Ghana to be able to resolve this. So yes, the military have a very good role to play, because of the fact that we're dealing with a situation which is life and death, and some people have already died. The Forestry Commission, once they are also empowered, and we are able to ensure that they have the necessary linkages with the police, with the army, so that when they are overwhelmed, they will be able to bring them in We provide them in places like the Awin area, for example, where we know that now there is a lot of people there. We provide them with the air support. So you don't only go there with the ground forces, but you have the Air Force flying sorties over those particular places. And then also these excavators are not carried in pockets. So on the roads, the police barriers and all of that, they have the power to make sure that these equipment are confiscated. When they are confiscated, you know the VIN numbers of them, who imported them into Ghana. You start rallying all of these people. And we do a lot of sunshine, throw a lot of sunshine into this. Transparency in the way all of this will be dealt with. We would be able to stop these things from happening. So it is just the issue of the political will. And it starts, fortunately, with His Excellency the President. Now he has a minister in place and letting everybody know that we're not going to allow these things of because you think you are in the NDC and your party has come into power, like that young woman said, you also go take your chisel and hammers and your guns and go in there. Once that can happen, we then would then be able to ensure that the right things are going to be done. And that will only happen if we, the citizens of Ghana, and you know, all of us again say that never again are we going to allow ourselves to be killed. Those who have died, we need to ensure that we're going to stand up and make sure that the right things are done.
Let me stay with you, Doc. I mean, of course, the president is, the top of the line, but Parliament is also in there. They're the ones who passed that LI 2462 anyway. Is it a wonder to you why they haven't yet started the processes to repeal that LI yet?
Well, I'm not too sure why that is delaying. Because now the attorney, we should also give them the benefit of the doubt. The Attorney General who just came into office. You know, fortunately for us, the Speaker of Parliament, when we sent an invitation for him to join the Ghana Coalition against Galamsey, agreed to join the coalition. So we're hoping that now that the Attorney General has been in office for about a few days, this should be one of the first things that we should do. And now the NDC has the overwhelming majority, because earlier on they said they were going to take a private member's bill to revoke it. You know, so now they have an overwhelming majority. They don't need a private member's bill again. They can immediately take this thing and on the certificate of urgency, take that out. But one of the things we think we need to do, we need to go back and issue an RTI to the EPA and to the Minerals Commission and find out when His Excellency, the former president, decided that they were not going to operationalize the LI again. Were any other permit signed again? And who were signed for? All of that would be an illegality, because if the president himself had declared that we were not going to operationalize this law, who else would that have been given to? So we need to also find this thing.
But Dr. Ashigbe, I think the answer is already out there, because between the 1st and the 6th of January, all of these licenses that were given were post some of the comments made by the former president about LI 2462.
So what we need to do immediately is to find out who these are. And the same way that the bauxite mining lease that was signed by the NDC in December 27, 2016 was revoked by the MPP government when they came. All of those licenses who are found known to be, legitimate should also be revoked immediately. And if any of them were licenses given in the forest reserve, they should be cancelled immediately. If there were licenses that were abutting any of our water bodies, they also should go. And so it's important that when they are done very transparently and they are published so that we know that this is what happened. And if any of the officers who signed this after the president has said that was all going to go, these people too, if they have sinned against any of our laws, they need to be brought to court and they should be punished. The thing about it is that we should use the hot stove principle. We should not allow any impunity again to happen. If Kenneth Ashigbe does it, it should burn them. If Awola does it, it should burn them. If the NDC, Ashanti Regional Party chairperson does it, it should burn him also immediately. So that's why we need to be very brutally honest with ourselves in the dealing with this particular issues that we have on our hands.
Right. Thank you so much, Doc. And Ohimin Tewia is back online with us. Ohimin, you were telling us about what happened after the expose was aired, and we kept the internet or the connection was just so bad. So can you start all over again?
Yes, sweetie. So after the expose, then on December 20th, the police team left the Ashanti Regional Police Headquarters at Edum to raid the illegal mining site at the Anua-Futu side of the tunnel of shelter bed forest reserve. So when we entered the site, usually with the Galamsey site, you meet metal or even wooden barricades erected by the illegal miners, and they are manned by security. In this instance, those who were manning this point were national security operatives who were armed to the teeth, because I saw pump action guns. These are latest pump action guns. And immediately the police team entered. They first arrested those at the barrier. Then those arrested were handcuffed and put in the custody of 2 police officers for the team to enter the site proper. When we entered the site, it's a very vast area. Then we got to the last point where these illegal miners had been mining, and you could see the large tracts of the forest, green forest that has been destroyed, and the gold washers were on, the gold washing machines were on, the water pumping machines were on, and they were in brisk business. But unfortunately, we didn't meet anybody at this site. Then those in charge, the excavator operators that the police team sent, were trying to track the excavators back, because the point and the arrangement was that the police had said they would take the excavators to the Nyinahini police station, and when these the owners come for them, they can be arrested to face the law. Whilst at this site, a call came through from the police officers who were at the entrance that the illegal miners had regrouped, the security men had regrouped and mounted 2 more barriers outside the first one that we met. Then the police team decided to move to the entrance. We came to meet these large, illegal miners, their security operatives, dressed in military camouflage, some with hoods all over. You cannot even see their faces. And they started making demands that first, police have to release the security men that they have arrested, and also return the seized arms that they took from the illegal miners. And then they were also insisted that police release money, mobile phones, and wrappers of gold that they took. And then also the last demand was that the Joint News team will have to surrender our camera for them to take a look at the images that we have taken at the site. So then they started, all these demands were made whilst they were being, they were agitating. And you could see their numbers kept growing, their numbers kept increasing, to the point that the miners had introduced a first reinforcement. So the first reinforcement came, and they were also dressed in military camouflage. By this time around, they were armed more than the first military team that we met at the site. And so they started deflating the tires of the buses that we went to the site with. At that time, myself and the camera technician and some excavator mechanics and operators were on board. And police has said that we should remain on board so that they deal with the situation. Then they started deflating the tires of the buses, and then they started also pelting us, throwing stones at the bus. And I saw the first person being hit in the head by one of the stones. He collapsed in the vehicle, and then you could see blood oozing all over. And myself, I was the second person to be hit by the stone. And in the midst of all these agitations, I saw the assemblyman for Anua-Futu, Kechire Opoku, somebody I had interviewed on November 30th, present in the midst of the illegal miners, shouting on top of his voice that he has spoken to the district police commander, and that the police commander says he has no idea, he has no knowledge of the operation of the police team, and that everybody, all of us at the premises were armed robbers, we were criminals, and that is why the police commander is not aware. So all these comments appear to have incited the illegal miners and emboldened them. And so immediately I was hit by the stone. I fell in the vehicle, and you could see I started bleeding, blood all over, to the point that I saw a unit committee member. When I spoke to the assemblyman on that particular day, there were 2 unit committee members present. So I saw him and called him, "Chief, can you help us?" And he was very, he felt so uncomfortable that myself and the camera technicians were in the bus and we have been attacked. So he tried to offer some support to lead us out of the bus. And the camera technician had to be pulled through the window of the bus. So whilst we were being escorted by the unit committee member, we were running. Then the people, the illegal miners, the security men started, approaching us, and I had to shout on top of my voice. This time around, I'll say I had my Joy News jacket on. So we're shouting, we are not armed robbers. Some for if you Joy News. So wait, we are not armed robbers. We are journalists from the Joy News team, and we have come here just to cover events as unfold. But these people were still, coming all over us. And then the assembly member, also the unit committee member, also had to shout on top of his voice. When he realized the attacks were, becoming so pronounced, me a unit committee, me a committee member. So to wait, he is from the community, he lives there with them, and he's a member of the unit committee. So he had to be freed in that manner. But at the point I realized he left me because the people were so many. They had, those who had joined the attack on us were so many. Then I was hit on the...
sorry to interject. How did he leave you? How did he escape the attack?
In fact, when the security men, their numbers were increasing and he was shouting on his voice, it's like at that point, he had to run for his life. So I cannot say what exactly he did, but at that moment, he was not with us. He was the one leading us to safety, but I couldn't find him because the numbers had swelled. The number of the security operatives had grown and has increased, so he had to leave the scene. Then I was hit on the upper part of my chest by a stone, and it sent me down. All this while I was bleeding. I was, shouting on top of my voice that I'm a journalist from Joy News TV, and the people pulled, I saw them because when we went there, we spent almost 2 hours. So I saw one of the security men pull a machete. Hello.
Yes, we're going to have more time to expand on these issues because this is not an issue that we can exhaust just today. It's an issue that we'll have to be discussing. But I see, just as we conclude, and it's interesting because when we head over to Parliament's vetting committee or the appointments committee this morning, the one who is going to be in the hot seat, Emmanuel Ama-Kofi-Boa, is the Minister Designate for Lands and Natural Resources, which segues neatly into this conversation. We'll be hearing from him on what they are going to do about illegal mining. But before we go there quickly, Ohimeng, I see some plaster on your head. Can you show us the damage that was done to you?
Yeah, that was the head injury I sustained. And I also sustained some injuries all over my body because you can see I was really stoned. They threw stones at me, tried to sever my legs with machete. So the plaster you see here is the head injury I sustained. Unfortunately for me, this morning, I'm supposed to have gone for a dressing at the hospital. But because of this conversation, I had to put that one on hold. So since then, I've had this plaster on me.
We wish you a very speedy recovery, Ohimeng Teria. And We thank you for what you're doing for God and country. We'll leave you to attend to your wounds, and later we shall, when the time is proper, come back to you as we push this agenda forward. Very quickly, we have to head to Parliament. So, ladies, gentlemen, 1 minute or less, quick thoughts about the way forward, your concluding thoughts. I'll start with you, Awula Sewa.
We face a state of, we need to call a state of emergency. I'm so upset about what I've heard about Ohiming. We cannot allow the situation to go on. We will sink to the levels of Latin American countries if we do not act yesterday. An army officer told me that they can end this within 3 months. Within 3 months, if they are given the equipment and there's no political interference. Okay. He told me they can solve this in 3 months. Thank you for your thoughts, Awula Sewa. Let's go to Samuel Bekwe. Okay, I think we've lost Samuel Bekwe. Let's do Dr. Ashigbe as we conclude. Doc, a minute or less.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping that we would hear some positive things from the Honorable Minister Designate. Awula had said he's been given 3 months. I got one of the top regulators tell me that if the president then wanted this solved, we will solve it within a month. So I believe that if His Excellency President John Mahama, working with this minister, wants us to resolve it, we can resolve it and move to sustainable, responsible mining that can coexist with other agriculture and other things. Okay. But let's bear in mind, there's a genocide happening, there's an ecocide happening, and there will be responsibilities for it. Those who did not act in the past, they will be held responsible. Those in office today, if they don't act, they would also be held responsible. Thank you. Mr. Bekwe, quick thoughts.
Yes, I think this is the reason why I had earlier mentioned that if the military intervention may not be the only solution, there has to be a hybrid. The military has to go with the state agencies like MINCOM so that it empowers MINCOM for the illegal miners to see that MINCOM has a right, and then they will use the military as a backup to ensure that anybody who blocks their kind of work. We've seen the military intervention before. Some of them was even converted into gold miners. Right. And the evidence is very clear. So let's have that hybrid and ensure that we empower the state agencies to do their work. But I would just quickly say that with the political interference, whether there is military or not, if there is still somebody calling from the office of the president or calling from the ministry, that interventions will never be sustainable. All right. So that is the first thing we have to cut out. The political interference.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady, for joining the conversation. Samuel Osei Bekwe joined the conversation, Executive Director, Center for Extractives and Development, Africa. We had Awula Sewa, founder, Eco-Conscious Citizens. We had Dr. Ken Ashigbe, Media Coalition Against Galamsey. We had Ohiming Tewia and Erastus Sasaredonko, colleagues working on this beat.